That's real, because this is good.
Yeah. Oh, Ronnie. So I was talking to Ronnie, and I said, Ronnie and Lloyd interviewed me for my first job there. And Ronnie said, and I had a history of about every 3 years I would change jobs. And he looked at me and said, "You think you last longer than 3 years?" So when I retired a year and a half ago, I was at a board meeting, which I was an officer of the board, and I told Ronnie, I said, "Ronnie, you remember that? I lasted 26 years. But you talk about a fine man to deal with. You know, I didn't work directly for him. I worked directly for Lloyd, but he was one of those guys that, you know, let me tell you, one piece of advice he gave me a long time ago. He said, "Troy, when they hired me, he said, let me tell you something. He said, let me tell you what's important. Remember that the people who came before you didn't make it very many years." He said, you need to know who to ask questions to. Don't take everybody's advice. Run it the way you believe it needs to be ran, and you'll be fine. 26 years later, I'm still there.
So what was Ronnie's job there?
Ronnie was the vice president of operations. So he oversaw all the stores that we had. He hired all the store managers, and
so he was the guy under Lloyd?
He was the guy directly under Lloyd. That's exactly right.
How did that? When did wholesale start? I remember
wholesale started 70. Right now it's probably 77 years ago. It started under the block company down on South Ocoee Street, D&H Block Company. That's how it started. And then Lloyd came to work for them, and I may not have the details exactly.
As a bookkeeper.
As a bookkeeper, that's exactly right. And then Lloyd bought into the company. And then Lloyd's told me this story several times. And then they decided to get into the electrical business first. Okay. So Lloyd and several other folks put money in, had to borrow. He said, I had to go borrow the money. I think it's $25,000 back then. He said, and my wife like to have died when I did it. But he said, we borrowed the money, put electrical supply down there, and that's how we got started.
And that was about what year?
Gosh, I'm going to say it was probably 60s, early 60s when he did that.
So by the time I worked for my Uncle Joe Wonby.
Yep.
For years. And so around 80, I would have been cognitive of supply houses.
Yes, of course.
So the early days of going down to wholesale was different. You know, you literally might go get it off the shelf yourself.
That's exactly right. You know, Charlie Howard managed when they opened up the plumbing store. They had them separate at one time. Okay, and Charlie Howard managed the plumbing store. And now you want to talk about a character, and there's your character.
I believe
Charlie was great.
Charlie, and he stayed with them for a long time too.
He retired 28 years ago. He retired right before I started with him. So I never got to work with him, but I obviously served on the board with him, of the board of directors. So, but he's just a great guy. He's still living, doing well.
I think I remember dealing with him back in those early days when they were down there.
And Charlie was laid back. You know, Charlie never got excited. You know, he was just laid back, easy to get along with.
He would do the major estimates.
That's exactly. Well, he was a store manager.
Yeah, he
was a store manager. And I don't know what all his responsibilities were, but he was a great guy. He was a great for wholesale, and he was there in the beginning.
Didn't they end up with like 36 locations?
Yes, sir. They sure did. They had 35 stores when I left a year and a half ago.
And didn't they open up one in somewhere I saw here recently?
And they're opening one up in North Carolina.
That's what it was.
Yes, Waynesville, North Carolina.
So that would be number 36, I guess.
Well, it may be 35 because I think they closed one.
Okay.
Because sometimes, as you know, sometimes you go into a town and business is good. Sometimes it never really ever takes off to where it's profitable. Okay. So I think that we had closed one right before I left.
So they were always in the plastic pipes.
Yes, that's correct.
Pipes.
That is correct. But just good folks. They don't come any better.
I remember when they first opened up kind of this showroom. That was kind of a new thing.
That was a new thing.
That's
new
exactly
concept. Right. Yes.
And then when they bought the host over here where Superior O's used to be.
That's right.
That's when they, I guess, got into the lighting more. Now they were.
Well, we were in it. We were down on South Ocoee Street.
Right.
So we were in lighting then, but we had nothing compared to what they have over here on Key Street.
Didn't they go on 25th Street for a while?
Yes, in the early days they had a it was Wholesale Supply Group North.
North, yeah,
okay?
And that was where they had most of their lights.
That's exactly right. That was their lighting center.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And that was before me. That was before I came to work for them.
So then you came along, And what was your position?
They hired me as a distribution manager. Matter of fact, just a little history of wholesale. I am the first person that Lloyd Rogers ever hired to go into a management position without having to start as a driver or start somewhere else. I was the first person moved into management.
You were almost in what we'd call today logistics.
Logistics, that's exactly correct.
But they didn't call it that then.
That's right. And that was probably, it was a great learning experience for me. They had a lot of faith in me, trust in me, and I just didn't do that. Now, Lloyd used to be big in auctions. We'd go to TVA auctions. We'd go all over the place and buy stuff and bring back down here and sell. We went probably for several years, probably every other weekend I was out of town at a Lowe's auction. Now, years ago, then when Lowe's did their big expansion, they would continue operating their store. They'd build a new store and totally stock it, and then they'd come back and sell everything in their store. The forklifts, I'm talking about everything, trucks, it didn't matter. So we were traveling every weekend or every other weekend, going to a sale, buying material, bringing back here and putting and selling it. We did that for several years.
Do you remember some of the early 1995 plumbers that were around in Cleveland? Were you that involved with them?
I wasn't that close, but now Pritchard's. The Pritchards,
yeah.
You always heard about Pritchards. They'd come in there and complain like ever and just continue to do business with you. They were never happy. But that was just their personality, okay? Yeah. But now, I never really dealt with the public unless they came over to our distribution center to pick something up, and I might see them then.
What about the guy that used to be down on off of Inman that had heat and air and plumbing, and he was, I can't think of his name. But there's a lot of those old plumbers that were staples around here that just disappeared.
Yeah. The first plumber that I probably ever knew was a guy named Tim, and I can't remember his last name.
Tim, don't tell me.
Well, let me tell you.
Who you're talking about.
Let me give you a little bit more history about me, Dee. Yeah. I went to work when I was 11 years old for Lynn Davis. Kalo Lynn Davis. Kalo.
You got to, if you're in the know, he's called Kalo.
Kalo, that's exactly right. And his daddy was too, by the way.
I didn't know his daddy.
I met his daddy years ago.
They did Rolandbrook.
They sure did. They did Rolandbrook, did American Heritage. They did all the ones back off Peach Orchard. He did all those. I remember I went to work for him when I was 11 years old.
These developers just think they developed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
He developed a lot.
He developed a lot. That's exactly right. And he was...
That was in the 265 program,
That's exactly correct. That's exactly... And all of them were 265.
265, and then they came along with the 235.
That's right.
That's when they'd give the buyer $5,000 so he could buy it.
So he could buy it. That's exactly right.
And get the loan.
And I
Bell
was...
Fount.
My parents was one of those people. We lived in Rolandbrook.
I think we did too.
That's how I got to go. I went up on top. I used to have a mini bike. And rode to work at 11 years old up there to work for Lynn. Now, if you've ever worked for a man that was tight as a banjo string, let me tell you, you don't have any idea. He was the tightest man. But I learned a lot from him. A lot of people say, oh gosh, he was this, he was that. But let me tell you, Lynn Davis saved a penny. He didn't say, it wasn't the dollar he looked at. He looked for those pennies to find. Matter of fact, I talked to his son just a couple of months ago, Chip, great kid. But we were out. I used to deliver material. He opened up Builders Mutual Exchange.
Builders Mutual.
Okay. Well, I was there when he did that also, and I carried sheetrock, 12-foot sheetrock.
So you worked there then?
Yes. So I worked there from when I was 11 years old till I was 15.
So you weren't a stranger to the construction business.
No, sir. Matter of fact, I've been knocking on doors, obviously, during my campaign, and I ran into one of the original owners of J&J Drywall.
Oh.
And I can't think of his name, but just a great guy.
Russell.
His brother, Russell. Now, Russell was
the daddy.
Russell was the daddy, and then his brother was in business with him. They were partners. And I met him knocking on doors probably a week ago, and it was just amazing because I thought, gosh, see, we used to carry all their sheetrock for them before they started stocking it themselves. A guy named Ronnie Kidd and I.
Ronnie Kidd.
Remember
one
Ronnie?
arm.
Yeah, one arm. That's exactly right. I worked with him for 5 years there at Builders Mutual Exchange.
And he did insulation on the side.
That's exactly correct.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive. As far as I know now, I built a house and he insulated for me. So that's been several.
I think I still use the company that
Kids insulation
that he started maybe.
Yeah. Well, he was a great guy.
Changed names several times.
And he could probably killed you that arm.
Oh, he would kill you. Nicest guy you
Nicest
ever
guy
met.
you ever want to meet. And we carried, but we delivered every bit of the sheetrock for J&J Drywall.
It was about right here.
That's exactly right. And he'd always have to be on the, I was talking to Russell's brother about this the other day. I said, Ronnie always had to be on the very front of the sheetrock because he had to cook that arm around that, to hold it next to him. So he always got the front and we got the back.
He had a son and a daughter that would help him insulate.
That's exactly right.
Now,
fine man.
Russell got me out of more jams because I would misfigure a job.
Yep.
And I'd say, Russell, what can we do here? And he'd finagle it to where it worked.
Yeah. Well, they were good. They're good
I still
people.
use them.
Oh yeah, and I can't. I'm like you, Dee. I'm loyal.
I'm loyal to.
But let me tell you, if you,
I'm loyal to the point. It may not be good, but I'm loyal.
But well, there ain't very many of us left. Just want to know the truth. That's honest truth. I'm not just saying that, but I'm one of those guys. If a man treated me right, and he was always fair with me, I pick up the phone. I use the same guy all the time on my stuff. Always.
Russell always knew he was likely going to do the next job anyway.
That's exactly right.
So we was going to catch up or make up or whatever.
You're exactly right. But good people. Gosh, I'm telling you, we used to.
Now I use Tanner. Tanner runs it now.
Okay.
Really good.
Now that's their sons or something, I believe, isn't it? Are they some kin to them?
Russell had two boys.
Mm-hmm.
One of them ran the insulation department. One ran the drywall department. And I can't think of their name for some reason. I know them just like a Sonny.
I know. Sonny. Yep.
Why couldn't I think of that?
It sure is
Sonny ran the. They're really good business people.
They really are.
They're just on time. You know, I was here about. It hadn't been 5-6 years ago. I was doing a job and we had to be done the following Tuesday, and Monday was a Labor Day. And I had to have some of that bendable bead.
Beads, yes. I know exactly
And
what you're
I
talking
didn't
about.
have any.
Yep.
No stores had it. And I went over there and climbed their fence on Memorial Day.
Wow.
Climbed the fence. Got into their warehouse and got that.
Wow.
And went back the following Tuesday and I said, hey, I owe you for this. And they said, we didn't bring it to you. And I said, believe me, I owe you. You can't make that stuff up.
No, you really can't.
That's a true story.
I bet it is. There's no doubt.
Climbed the fence and handed it over to the guy that was with me. Because I knew where they had it stored.
Right. That's funny. Too funny.
Yeah, I guess you'd get put in jail for that.
Oh, yeah, you would today, that's for sure. Yeah.
But anyway, I know Russell, and they do big jobs.
Yeah.
But wholesale supply, people don't realize how big they are.
They really don't. They think it's a local store, but I mean, we're, like I say, we've done, when I went to work for them, Dee, back 27, 28 years ago, we had 17 stores. So we did a lot of growth in my tenure there.
Now, after they, 95 was about in the construction business, the 90s was known as the decade of excess.
Yes.
Ceramic tile floors,
Yep.
ceramic tile. Not only ceramic tile floors, but you had the diamond design, and the diamonds had to all be cut to where they disappeared under the tub, and everything was, and Lenox Hills was developed.
Right.
And they were developing it before they were building. I was building a house in Lenox Hills while it was still a dirt road, and they were trying to get it paved. And
well, I was over there working for Cherokee Construction. I worked for them a year, and I was over there clearing some lots off that he had bought for his daughter. Sure was. Before I went to work for wholesale, I worked for Cherokee for a year.
It's funny. I remember you being there, and you were just there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it was just from 95. Mm-hmm. But in the construction business, from 1995 to 2006, it did not stop one day.
You're exactly right.
It was just all you could do.
Well, and that was the same way with wholesale. I can remember the days where the wintertime it slowed up, summertime it got busy. Well, it just got to the point where it was never slowed up.
Never.
Okay, ever.
And it stopped about October of 07.
That's right. Yep.
Just like they slammed the door.
You're exactly right.
I feel like right now in our economy, we're in 2006 again.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting ready. And, you know, it's not necessarily that things went bad. It's just everybody got caught up. Everybody had a house. They had a new house.
Right. Well, I think if all the things they say is going to happen here in Cleveland in the next 2 or 3 years, I think that's where we'll be. You know, when we talk about building 900 houses down off
Somebody
exit 20.
said that fell through. I heard that.
When I haven't heard that.
I heard that through the grapevine,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's true. And I heard that other one's on stall. I think these interest rates are going up.
Interest rates.
You know, in the building business, it goes this way, then it goes that way. It's just a matter of how long it's going to go this way and how long it's going to go.
That's exactly correct.
But I can feel it slowing up because some of these subs that can't get there for a month are coming next week.
Yeah.
And just little things that you can really see that you think, hey, everybody's catching up a little
Well, that's
bit.
a good point.
And when they're catching up in June, they're going to be really caught up in November, December, because what we're doing now is getting stuff.
Exactly.
So I think it, and I'm glad, man. You can't ever. The prices are unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's not a day go by I don't get a letter saying we're sorry. We're informing you that gravel, concrete,
That's right.
drywall,
Right.
if you can get it.
Right. I agree.
It's a weird phenomenon, isn't it?
Well, I don't know how. Well, and some information I have heard. The problem we're having today is because the interest rate's going up. People are having to lower their price on their house to sell their house to sell it now because the interest rate kicked the price up per month so high that they can't qualify now. So so I think it's going to force the house pricing back down to a reasonable amount.
That's supply and demand,
That's supply and affordability. I mean,
capitalism and all of the above.
That's exactly right.
That's why you don't get out here and do too much, because when it stops in this business, it stops overnight.
That's right.
It's the next morning.
Yes.
The only warning you get is if you're in it, you just sense people are catching up and that sort of thing.
I agree.
But it's a business that is very addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Did you work mainly at the main office?
No, I didn't work at the main office at all. I was at the distribution center. I was the only VP that was off campus. Except Ronnie was a VP off campus, and I was a VP off campus. Or off what I call campus.
Where did Ronnie? Where he stay?
He was out of Crossville.
But that's where
he stayed the whole time in Crossville.
Time.
Yeah, sure did. When I say the whole time, that's where he lived. But I mean, he traveled and stayed on the road a lot.
Did they buy into that? Wasn't he an owner at one time?
Well, now he didn't own any stock that I can remember. No, he owned stock. Yes, he did own stock, but I don't know how much he owned.
Way early on,
way early in the process.
And he had a daughter too, right? Two daughters.
I know of one and two sons. And now
two sons?
Yeah, two sons. Yeah, he had two sons. Patrick was his youngest son.
I didn't know him.
Yeah. I believe he just had a daughter.
I wouldn't know Scotty if I saw him.
Yeah. Well, when he talked, but as soon as he talked, you'd know it was him.
I know it was him.
Because his voice hadn't changed at all.
Country's cornbread.
Country's cornbread, I'm telling you. But a great guy, and like I say, he's been very successful with wholesale. Done well for us.
Well, did they move to Crossville because they had a store there?
Yeah, that's correct. Because they saw a movement of opening stores over in that area, Lebanon and all those areas. So
Lloyd is a very good businessman, wasn't he?
Oh gosh, one of the finest men I think I've ever worked. Well, not I think the finest man I ever worked for in my life. He was one of those people that he said, "This is what our goal is, and this is where we're headed to make it happen." And he didn't try to micromanage you. He let you do your job. If you needed something, he was there to help.
And if you walked into his office, he'd be sitting like this, reading something.
That's right. Yeah.
And you could never hear him.
Yeah.
Because he always had a low voice.
Well, see, that's never been my problem.
Not
But you're right. He was one level keyed all the time.
Talk like
never
this.
got excited. That's right.
I don't know, Dee, what we're going to do. These prices are really going up.
Yeah, that was him. Yeah, that was me. But just a great guy. Let me tell you, he was probably one of the kindest men I've ever met in my life. He did so many things for this town that nobody ever knew about.
Nobody knows.
I mean, he didn't want any publicity. He didn't want anybody to know about it. He was just that kind of guy.
If he told anybody, they couldn't hear him because his talk's so low.
Too.
And the chairs in his office were always bigger than me. I felt like I was on David Letterman. He always.
That's funny. But just a great guy. They won't be another one like him.
Eddie
ever.
Botts thought the world of him.
Eddie Botts. Him and Eddie Botts was in a lot of deals together.
They were in a lot of deals.
A lot of deals. And also Max Carroll.
Those three.
Three amigos, we call them. But they helped build Cleveland.
They really did.
They really did. I mean, they were the pioneers, in my opinion, of why we're where we're at. But we had men like them that believed in Cleveland and wanted to do business in Cleveland.
Yeah, and they did a lot. You can just go back and remember, oh, they did this, they did that. Oh, yeah, I remember they did that. And you don't think about it. And, I guess we could go back 50 years ago, and there was a group that we don't even know about, too. The Ben Lewises, John Lewises.
Yeah, the George Johnsons.
George Johnson.
I think that
Lynn Davis.
I think back. I remember, Dee, when I was 5 years old, I lived in Polk County. My parents did, and I'll never forget. It had one red light. Drive up every day in Benton, and it's still one red light. And I use that as an example to folks. I say, guys, we're very fortunate in Cleveland and Bradley County to have people that wanted to have more than just the norm for our people. They wanted to make sure that our kids had a job, their grandkids had a job, so that we didn't have to go to Atlanta or Knoxville or Nashville to find a job. We've been very blessed here. And I guess to talk a little bit about my school board seat for 20 years, that's been my goal, is to make sure we had kids educated enough that and hopefully jobs that they could fill and make a good living and raise my grandsons here and your grandsons, that our families could stay here in Cleveland and make a decent living.
I couldn't think of my kids going and working out of town and me just being able to see them every once a month or so.
I couldn't either. I'd go crazy. I'll just tell you.
Especially if you had two in two different locations.
Oh yeah. I don't know how people do that, but we're fortunate here in Cleveland that we've had good jobs, and we're going to have even better jobs coming in the future here. I really do believe that. I think we've got a great horizon for our grandchildren today that they'll have a chance.
And that's the key to have jobs that our kids can stay here.
That's right.
If you want an argument for progression, that's it. And
I'm sorry. I strongly believe that. So it doesn't matter what I do in life, that'll always be my goal and push to make sure that we continue to do that here in Cleveland, that we don't let up. We continue to work toward getting industry here and that pay well, okay, that gives my grandkids a chance and your grandkids and other people's grandchildren a chance to make a good living, and they get to stay here too.
And don't have to move to Minnesota.
Exactly.
How long did you live in Polk County?
I lived in Polk County for a year. 1 year.
When you were how old?
I was 5 years old.
Do you remember much about it?
Well,
at 5?
I just remember the one red light. We lived right. I mean, I could see the red light from where we lived. Okay.
Were you up on the hill on the west side?
On the west side.
I was over there yesterday.
You know where the school is?
Yep.
We lived in a rental house there. Belonged to a guy named Ben Lewis, and he owned that.
The one I just mentioned.
Yes.
Is that him?
Well, I'm just not sure, but they closed that road now, but there used to be a road coming down from the school and came down there and came down to 411. And now it's no longer there anymore. They closed it.
I built a house over there on the left. It's in a hole.
In the hole. That's exactly right. So that's where, and we were in a rental house right above the Lewises. Now my stepdad was kin to the Lewises somehow, so that's how I guess we ended up there. But we didn't stay long because we came back to Cleveland. But I just remember the school being there. I remember the one red light, and I always thought it was just strange that it just had one red light. And we come back to Cleveland, and we had several back then, and just no comparison. But I guess I've always the friends that I have in Polk County. My wife's parents live there in Benton, and I always just felt sorry that they just I don't know why it never took off, because 411 is a wonderful highway.
Oh man, I love going to Polk County.
So I hope that someday that the bells will go off, and your leadership up there will make sure that we start getting industry up there and giving those folks a chance to.
411 right now, you go up there and it's so busy.
Oh,
when they widened it, it just brought in everybody.
Well, people's bypassing Chattanooga and Cleveland. I mean, it is a market waiting for someone to take advantage of, I think.
It really is.
And it may be several years down the road before it is, but the light bulb's going to go off, and they're going to say, "Oh, looky here."
It's really a good place, and you can go so many different ways from being there.
That's right. So I wish them best, but I'm happy with what's happening here, and I hope to continue to be a part of building Cleveland and making a difference for our kids in the future.
Why did you decide to retire? Because you're not that old.
No, I'm not that old, but I had been there 26 years, and just like I told Jeff, which is Lloyd's son, I told Jeff, I said, Jeff, it's time for somebody to have a chance to fill my shoes and move on, because I think after a time, in anything you do, okay, I think sometimes it's good to have new blood, new ideas, a new vision, because when I came, that's what I had. I was a new guy. I had a vision of where we need to go, and I had a plan.
And you can get burned out after you've been on the
You certainly can.
And things irritate you that wouldn't have irritated
That's exactly correct. As you get older, that just...
You think,
but it was a wonderful company, wonderful people. I have got lifelong friends that I dealt with there for all these years. I hired people. I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of people that I hired. So I have I've had to make a payroll. And I had to make sure that we was in budget, and I had to make sure that our equipment ran. It's funny, Dee, in life, we don't realize that all the things that we did prior to getting here got us here. Okay, and I think back of all the experience I had, and when I came there to Wholesale Supply Group, I was in the trucking business. So
building
I had
supplies.
trucks. Yeah,
knew the language to these subs, because there is a language.
There's a language. That's exactly right. So I was very blessed that the Lord put me there that day. And let me tell you how I got the job. See, and anybody who works for me, they're going to tell you, they know this story. Is I was working for Cherokee Construction. I was in between jobs. I used to have a quick loop here in town, the Express Lane. I was an owner of there. Okay, on Keith Street. Used to be the old Hardee's. Remember that?
Yep.
Green and white.
I remember.
Okay. Well, see, myself and one other gentleman, we were owners of that, and I decided to leave. So in between jobs, I worked for Cherokee Construction, and I'd never really been in the construction business. So that year was probably the most important year of my life, because I learned a whole lot about construction that I knew nothing about. Okay, and how I got Wholesale Supply Group the job there is I was inside. We built the distribution center for them. Okay. Now, I don't know if you remember, but we bought the building that was up. They took it down and came and put it back up over on our property.
I remember that.
Okay. Well, I was in there sweeping one day. I was a laborer. That's all I was. I'm not a contractor, but I was a laborer. I was in there sweeping and doing whatever they told me to do. And Mr. Rogers saw me sweeping the floor, and he thought, and this way he said, I was amazed, because you took pride in what you did, even though sweeping the floor. Some people, they'll take one hand and just go out. It drives me crazy. Okay.
Or stir up dirt while they're doing it.
Yes. Well, so that's how I ended up getting an interview. He asked me, he said, hey, would you be willing to come meet with me and Ronnie? We'd like to talk to you. So that's how I got that job. And that was a big leap. That was a big leap, okay? So I say that to say this. Anybody that worked for me will tell you that the first thing you're going to do when you go to work for me is you're going to sweep the floor. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's important that you know that I believe that's important. Mm-hmm. It's not just one of those things that, well, just because you can pick, everything's okay. I want you to be able to do the basic thing of life. And let me just tell you, if you're not, I'm going to show you how. And I just think it's important that you take pride. And my point to my employees were, you take pride in anything you do. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the lowest man on the totem pole. I'll do whatever you ask me to do, and I'm going to do it the best of my ability. Because when I get up here, you don't forget.
Sweeping allows you to inspect. You ever thought about that?
Oh, yes, sir. You're exactly right.
You can inspect while you're sweeping by accident.
By accident. That's exactly right. Well, that's how I got that job, believe it or not. Not that I was the smartest. Okay.
So Lloyd stole you from
Jim Williams.
Jim, yeah.
Jim Williams, I have to tell you this. It was funny. And if you know Jim.
He was a tough one, buddy.
You better believe he's tough. Yeah. But Jim, the day I went and interviewed this day, the next day, Jim had me out there with a sledgehammer putting concrete forms in. You had to get the steel ones. You had to put the pole. Yeah. Well, I was out there all day long with that sledgehammer.
Wedges.
Yes, the wedges, all that. Out there slamming. He asked me the other day. He said, "When are you going to take that job?" He said, "I told Jim. I said, Jim, you like to kill me today? Of course I'm going to take that job." Yeah. But what a great guy. He was very kind to me. Yeah. I think the world of Cherokee Construction, they were very. I just couldn't ask for anybody better. And it was amazing. Then I ended up. You'll love this one. When Wholesale Supply Group hired me, I came in the next day, and Jim knew I was leaving, and he understood and all that. So I came in the next day, and we were still, Cherokee Construction was still working on the building. Well, I came in, now, they didn't allow you to wear shorts, okay? Well, I came in shorts the next day because it didn't have air conditioning. Yeah. So the guy working, he was redoing our bathrooms. He said, I'll never forget him, Paul was his name, Paul Bottoms. And he said,
Paul Bottoms.
He said, do you remember Paul?
I remember him.
I said, he said, Troy, you can't wear shorts. I said, Paul, you work for me now. I was being funny, but it was just a great day. I thought, I cannot believe that. It was cute.
Paul Bottoms was Austin Stevenson's lead carpenter. Mm-hmm. Paul Bottoms. Mm-hmm.
Good guy.
Is he still alive?
Nope, I don't think so. I believe he passed.
I always thought that was an odd name.
Paul Bottoms. Yep. But we had a good. I learned a lot in a year about construction. Mm-hmm. Respect for people in construction.
About how old were you when that happened?
I was, well, I'm 60. I'm 61
now. It had been 94.
94 is when I worked for him. So,
boy, it seems like yesterday, but it
sure does. But he wasn't. But gosh, what things have happened in between there?
Golly.
I learned a lot.
That's why I don't worry about 20-year mortgages, because it'll be here in a minute.
It'll be here in a minute. Isn't that the truth? You're exactly right. It doesn't matter.
Do you think that wholesale's going to keep growing?
No question. I think it is, yes. I mean, you just about have to anymore. I mean, if you're going to compete in the marketplace, you buy in volume. And the more you can buy, the better price you get, and the better price you can pass on to your customers.
So you have to be progressive.
You have to be progressive, or you're left behind anymore. And that's why Lloyd was always one of those people, if he found a great location, we opened up. We didn't go crazy, but we did it on we didn't borrow money to do it. So he made good, sound decisions.
Now, he ate at the Old Fort every morning, right?
Every morning.
Like 6:30?
Yep, between 6 and 6:30 we were there.
And I don't know if this is true, but did he take a lady a biscuit
every day?
Every day?
Every day.
Just a friend from church?
Just a friend from church. That's exactly right.
That's all it was.
That's all
just
it was.
A friend from church.
Yep.
An elderly lady, I believe.
Yes, it was. It sure was.
I don't remember why I knew that, but I knew that.
Well, he was one of the, like I said, we can talk about him all day long. He was the kindest man I ever met in my life. He wanted to do what's right, and he didn't.
He's not active now at all.
No, he's not.
Right?
No.
Josh is it Josh?
Josh, yeah.
Josh has taken over?
Well, Jeff has taken over. Jeff,
yeah.
his son, is running the company now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lloyd, I can tell you the story. I don't know how much you want to know about it, but I was with Lloyd when he had his first stroke. He had called me. He was having some problems falling, okay? And he called me. He had fallen in the bathroom. So I went up there and got him up, got him dressed. He took off to work. And then I decided, I've always thought Lord is a daddy to me. I mean, he treated me like a son. Let me just tell you, that's our relationship. And so I told him, I said, well, what I'll start doing is I'll start coming in the morning time and getting you out of bed, making sure you don't fall and all that good stuff. And then I'll come back at nighttime and make sure you get in bed, and then I'll go home. Well, one Saturday evening, we were there. I was there waiting on him to come home. He'd gone to see his girlfriend. And he came home. We were sitting there watching TV, and I noticed that he grabbed the channel selector and said hello, and I knew something was wrong. And I thought that's not right. So I called Jeff, his son, and said, "Hey Jeff, something's wrong. Can't tell you what it is because something just don't feel right. So I'm just going to I'm gonna go home and change clothes, and I'm gonna spend the night here tonight." So about midnight, I heard him goggling for breath. I mean, he was drowning on his own slava. And I ran in there, and he was just stiff as a board like this here, and he couldn't turn, couldn't move, nothing. I turned him on his side, cleared his throat, got him breathing, and then I called Jeff, and we called the ambulance, and they took him to the hospital, and he kindly recovered from that. At about 2 years, at least you could have a conversation with him, and it wasn't like he was making the biggest decisions in the world, but you could talk to him and all that. And then I was taking him to Old Fort every morning for breakfast.
Did you eat with him there?
Yes. Yes. So I would take my car up, or my truck. I'd take the truck up to his house. I'd get in the car, and they got him a little car, we could take him around in. So I'd take him to Old Fort, and then I'd bring him to work, and then I'd take the car back to his house, and then I'd bring my truck and go back, and then I'd go to work. Logistics. There you go. I would pick him up, take him up there. Then one morning, you know, he eats the same meal every day, never changed. Okay, and so we were sitting there, and he said, "Hey, I need to go to the bathroom." So I always followed him to the bathroom because he had a cane. I wanted to make sure he didn't slip on the floor in there, and then he sometimes had to get his britches fixed for him. And he went up there to use the bathroom. He got done. I got him ready to come back outside, and I noticed that he couldn't operate his cane. It was weird. So I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that, but I did notice it. Took him back to the table, and then all of a sudden I noticed that he couldn't use his right hand. He was using his left hand to eat. He don't do that. So I called Jeff because he'd had another stroke or seizure, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but it wasn't noticeable. You wouldn't even note it. Okay, if you didn't know what was going on. So we called an ambulance, got him back to the hospital again, and you know he really hasn't recovered anywhere close to where he was last time. So, but just a dear man.
What a well-lived life, right?
Oh gosh. You know, we used to go to ball games together. You know, we'd take him. He wanted to go to Tennessee, so we'd go to Tennessee ball game. We took him to Georgia and Tennessee ball game one time. Whew, what a trip!
He made a lot of money, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he did very well. He was very smart, but you know, he wasn't one of those people he didn't blow it. The only thing he loved to have was Corvettes. Okay, and he loved Corvettes. But other than that, he was not really a big spender at all.
No, he never was.
No.
He never was boisterous.
No, not at all.
You wouldn't even know him.
Oh, no. And if he saw you out at a restaurant, he'd buy you a meal.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many meals he's bought.
Yep, I had to hide my ticket.
Yeah.
So
But what a great guy.
He really was.
Yeah. And he's still alive. I don't talk in past tense, but he's still a great guy, but just don't really know, you know.
How old would he be now?
He's 84, 85, I think. But just
his son still eats at the Old Fort, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I would say.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem.
Now, when you're on the school board, what possessed you to do that?
Well,
was that an unusual path, or?
No. I would tell you that I was the PTO president at Michigan Avenue. Okay, and if you want to know the truth, I really ran for selfish reasons. I had a daughter that was in elementary school, and I thought, boy, if I got on the school board, maybe I could help her move along. And found out very quickly after I got on the board, Dee, that it really never was about her. She had two great parents that loved her, cared for her, and did anything she needed to do to make sure she was successful. It was really about those kids who didn't have parents, or parents weren't engaged, or didn't even know to be engaged. Okay.
Yeah, didn't know. Sometimes it's that.
Sometimes you just don't know.
Just don't know.
And really, more than anything else, I was able to make a difference in their lives, and that's what I saw very quickly after getting on the school board. That my influence there was to help those kids and those parents that really didn't know. Because
on the school board.
On the school, with me being on the school board.
You think the school board really helps to affect that stuff?
Oh, no.
More so than the principal at the school, or?
Well, I think you work hand in hand.
You got to give them the tools.
That's exactly right. You have to give them the tools to do that. But then sometimes a school board member can have influence where you need extra help. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And not giving a whole lot of details, but it's just kind of one of those things. I was one of those guys that you can ask any board member that ever served the last 20 years that I'm not a hunter, and I got a hunter's license, but I don't do that for a regular routine. I don't fish. This was my thing. Okay, being on the school board.
Did you real soon after you got on it get a passion for it?
Oh gosh, yes. It was just it was the love. It was one of the loves of my life, because the fact that I saw. Let me tell you, I grew up over in East Cleveland. I was poor as dirt. We were on food stamps. I was a ninth child, and so it was hand to mouth, and sometimes it wasn't nothing there to put in your mouth.
Whereabouts in East Cleveland?
I lived right beside Community Hall Church. You know where that's at over there? Okay, that was one of the poorest.
Where John Paul Douglas went.
That's exactly right. It was one of the poorest areas in Cleveland. Okay,
And still
and
is.
still is, and still is. And went to East Cleveland. And like I say, we were fortunate enough just to barely have clothes. If you just want to know the truth,
Now, East Cleveland is now a gym now, right?
East Cleveland is now pre-K. It's a part of the pre-K program that we have in Bradley County. And they have
That's right.
I'm not sure it's a gym anymore.
P Street.
That's right. So that's where I came from. And let me just tell you, I think there's a vicious circle in life sometimes that we get in that's so hard to get out. But I do believe the only way that we give a chance for these kids to get out of that is education. Education is the only chance that they have to get out of the vicious circle.
Not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but
the exposure. I was exposed to people that were much better off than me. Okay?
That's helpful.
That's what
You say, man, I want that.
When you separate that, Dee, you destroy education. Let me say
Desire.
It again. The desire. Because I saw people that had stuff that I thought, man, what would it be like to wear a shirt with a polo figure on it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have that when I was a kid.
Remember the
eyes on. Yeah, I didn't have none of those things. I had no chance of having it. I was lucky to have Walmart clothes. Okay. And we had, and I don't know about most people, but if you lived that life with me, what you had was when you got home, you had to take those clothes off because that's all you had. You had to put junk clothes or old clothes back on if you don't go outside and play.
Sunday shoes.
That's exactly right. So I live that life and I understand it, but I also know that there's another side to it. But education and people caring about you is what helped me get on the other side. I was very fortunate. I also believe hard work, Dee. It don't come easy. No. You got to work hard. And just like working for Lynn Davis, trust me, he didn't give me 75 cents an hour because he liked me. No. Okay? He gave me 75 cents an hour because he expected me to work. And I worked hard for that 75 cents, and then I got $1 and $2.
Yeah.
So it progressed on. But
worked half a day Saturday.
Every Saturday and every evening. By the way,
maybe not even half a day. Maybe like till 2 or something.
2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
But I worked every afternoon also, after school. I went to work for him after school. I didn't watch cartoons.
Did you go to Bradley?
I went to Bradley. Sure did. Yeah. Being from East Cleveland, it was an eye-opener for me to want to have what other kids had. Now, maybe that's selfish, maybe that was mean, I'm not sure what it was, but it was a desire in me that I wanted to have something more than I have. And I wanted to be something. I'm going to tell you a story about when I went to East Cleveland till the 5th grade, and then we moved to Rolling Brook, and I was at Michigan Avenue, okay? From 6th, 7th, and 8th. That's when we had all those grades in elementary school.
A little bit of a step up.
A little bit of step up, no question. But let me tell you, the eye-opener for me one time is I was in a classroom, and I won't mention the lady's name, but she's a dear lady. She's passed on now. But she must have had a fight with her husband that day. I'm pretty confident. We don't forget things you don't forget in life. This is one I don't ever forget. She came in there, and she was mad at her husband. I'm confident of that. And she told the girls in there, now, understand, I was poor, bald-headed as could be, because my mother shaved her head because we didn't want to have lice or anything like that. That was back in the day. Yeah. Okay, not very good looking, couldn't read. I mean, there's lots of.
You weren't tall.
No, wasn't tall. It was all those things were going against me. Okay, and this teacher gets up there and she says, "Girls," she said, "do not marry a poor man, because your life will be miserable." Now, let me tell you what I just told you.
God,
I was poor. I was uneducated at that point. Okay. And the girls didn't come running to me because I wasn't that good looking.
What grade was this?
It's 6th grade.
That's a vulnerable age.
Vulnerable age. Now, I could have taken that D and said, oh, gosh, I'm just going to give up. But let me tell you, I've never forgot that because that's been one of the things that drove me for years because I wanted to have a good family. I wanted to have the things in life that that my family could never have had, okay? So that was a changing point in my life of where am I headed? Where am I going to go? And it made a difference because I had been very successful, quote unquote, through my lifetime. I learned, it was funny, Kalo Lynn Davis, here's the lesson I learned from him. Number one, to be tight as a banjo string. Okay, we changed oil in a truck and you had to take the oil can and let it drain for 2 weeks before you threw the oil can away. Yeah, okay, seriously.
Yeah.
And I also learned from Lynn Davis that I figured out very quickly that the guy who was telling me what to do, he was making a lot more money than I was. And I said, now, what do I need to do? I need to figure out how to get on the other side. And this was a kid thinking, I need to figure out how to get on the other side of the fence. I need to be the boss. I need to be the leader. I need to be the guy who's making the decision, because he's the guy that's making the money, not the guy out here digging the ditch. So that was a changing point in my life there also, because of the fact that I realized that I had to figure out how to get over here. And I figured out how to get over there real quick, by the way. I've been blessed. I've been in management for years and years and years because of the fact that I realized that was my forte.
How was your parents? Were they big into that?
No. My parents were very uneducated. I had a stepfather, which he was a drunk. Okay, just to be honest with you.
What about your real father?
Never met him in my life. I had no idea.
To this day?
To this day, no.
He could be living down the road and you wouldn't know
he's dead. I know he's dead, but I never saw him with my own eyes. Now, I may have when I was first born, but he died 2 or 3 years, I guess when I was 2 years old. Is what my mother told me.
Okay.
So I never.
It wasn't like he deserted you.
No. He didn't desert me. Yeah. No. And so it's a changing point in your life when you figure out that all these things will come together if you. And I'd also tell you, work hard is what made the difference. You know, I worked hard at everything I ever done because I wanted to be good at it.
Well, and you also didn't have much of a choice. You had to.
Oh, no choice. My mother had a 3rd grade education, so I didn't get any tutoring at home. Okay, that was. But I did. But obviously, to be honest with you, if you don't know the truth, I didn't. Tutoring wouldn't have happened anyway because I worked every day.
Yeah.
Because the money that I earned, it had to go into the house for us to buy clothes for me and my brother and my sister. You know, I had 9. I was the 9th sibling, so now all of them didn't live at the house at the same time, but it made a difference. And it made me realize what you had to do if you're gonna be something someday. If you're ever gonna succeed, okay, is the word I guess to look. But it don't come easy.
Did you have a guilt for not working, like taking a day off during the week or something?
Oh,
Did that give you a guilt feeling?
Oh gosh, yeah. I didn't like missing work ever. Okay, I mean I'd have to be very, very sick to miss a day. I guess in my 26 years. With Wholesale Supply Group, if I miss 10 days, I'll be shocked. If you just want the truth, I don't miss days. I like being there. It's part of me. It's part of my life. I take it seriously. I work very hard at anything that I do. I always try to work hard at because I want people to know that I want to be there. And I've always been one of the people that I'm going to make you more money than you could ever pay me. That was my philosophy. Because if I made you money, I always had a job. And if I ever left a job, I left a job wanting them. When I left, they wanted me to stay. And that's the way I wanted to leave. I didn't want to leave thinking, gosh, I'm glad he's gone. I wanted to wish I was there. You didn't feel like
you were owed anything. You had to work for whatever.
Oh no. I believe you, and I think that's why I've had the success in life that I've had because of the fact that's the way I've always felt. Is you earn it. Okay.
What was your normal weekend like when you were 15 years old living in East Cleveland? No, by then you were at Rollingbrook, right?
Rollingbrook. A normal weekend, Saturday I worked till 2 or 3 o'clock.
Whereabouts did you live in Rollingbrook?
If you go down Rollingbrook Drive, I lived at the very bottom of the hill right before you get to the creek on the right.
The lot goes up or goes down?
Goes up. The lot goes up.
The next lot over goes down, I believe.
Well, no. The next lot is across the creek and it's flat. Now ours used to, if you remember when it used to flood, it would flood all the way back almost right to the door of the house, the basement door, but it never got in the basement.
I knew Ronnie Cantrell lived over there.
Yes.
Did you ever know Ronnie?
Yeah, I did. A lot of folks. Roxanne Boyce, do you remember Roxanne Boyce? Keith Knox?
No, I knew Ronnie Cantrell and his boy.
The Bowlings, David Bowling.
No, I don't know. You know Eddie,
Terry Lee.
Eddie Dyer lives over there. You know Eddie?
No, I don't know Eddie. So we had a good group of people.
It was a good community.
It was a good community. Now I've heard that after it went through a rough period for a while, but I think it's back to being a good community again.
I used to go over there and play football with Ronnie Cantrell's sons. They were a little rough.
Yeah, I bet they were.
They were rough.
But it was a step up from East Cleveland for us. I mean, we had a brand new house. Oh gosh, it was unbelievable.
That was in that 235.
It's 235. That's right. That's exactly right.
Social programs help.
No question. I think, and we never took advantage of it. We were glad to have it. We took care of it.
You can't take much advantage because there's not enough to take advantage of.
That's exactly right.
Even food stamps are a minimum,
That's right, exactly.
Were you on food stamps?
Yeah, oh, yes. Now, when we lived in East Cleveland, we were. I don't think we were. My stepdad worked for Vulcan Material. He was one of the guys down the hole digging, okay? So he made a fairly decent, unless he decided to get drunk that weekend and spend all his money. So, we still had a tough time at times because of the fact that he liked to drink.
Do you remember going to the store with food stamps?
Oh, yes. Most embarrassing thing in my life. I'll never forget that. And matter of fact, I was talking to somebody on the knocking on doors, and we were talking to the guy. We remember it was a booklet.
It was a booklet, and they had to pull out the certain foods that and everybody's if you couldn't hide the book.
That's right.
Because they knew when you started separating stuff that you were on food stamps.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it had the money value on the stamps. I mean, yes, sir. I remember that. Never will forget it.
Were you on the school lunch program?
Yes, sir. Free and reduced lunch. I got a piece of paper that we filled out, a copy, the original piece of paper where we filled out for food stamps, or for not food stamps, but for free and reduced lunch or reduced lunch. And they hide that much better today than they did when I was a kid.
Back then, it was not.
Back then, it was just you.
You might as well have a red dot on your head.
That's exactly right. But now today, you don't know if anybody's got money or don't have money. Okay, because it's all automated.
And that's a good thing.
And that's a good thing. I totally agree. But you live with that. But I mean, did it make me a better person? I think so, Dee. To be honest with you, I think I'm better because I had to live in that, and that's why I guess I have a burning desire to make sure that we move everybody that we can out of that circle.
Which is not going to happen.
No.
But we can sure make it.
We sure got to make an effort.
Like today, the big people being on food stamps, it's not as obvious. That's the things that have progressed.
That's great. I totally agree. Yeah. When you can take a card that looks like a credit card and do it, it don't mean anything anymore.
Don't mean anything.
Okay. But I'll assure you, back to the school issues, I truly believe that we perform one of the greatest services of mankind is public education. And without it, I'm not sure where our country would be.
And it's almost it's almost an arm of the social programs, which is good too. So it's twofold.
Very much. You know, we do so much. You talk to teachers, and we do so much more today than we did even when I was in school and you were in school. What we're required to have to do to help kids move forward. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's shocking is what it is. I mean, I remember when I was a kid in school, if you got in trouble, I mean, it wasn't because I was ADD. It's because I was just a mean kid.
Yeah.
Okay? And I got to go see Sam Ledford. I don't know if you remember Sam Ledford. Sam Ledford tear your tail up at Michigan Avenue. And you didn't have the problem with ADD. You had a problem with your butt hurting.
Yeah, you just dealt with ADD.
You just dealt, that's right. But I remember, and I've said this many times in meetings, I remember when my mother told me, if you get in trouble at school, whatever they do to you is okay with me, but when you get home, it's going to be twice as worse than what you got.
Is your mother still living?
No, she passed. But she was one of those, she's a firecracker. I mean, she didn't have no education, but she made sure that her kids, she told her kids, you ain't gonna get by with stuff like this. And she believed, if the teacher said it doesn't matter what the teacher said I did, I was guilty, period. And most of the time I probably was. Okay, I wasn't a bad kid, but I mean, obviously we all do something sometimes we shouldn't do. But
you're getting fights in school?
I've gotten in a fight before. I'm a big boy, okay, today, but when I was in school, I was just a little runt. I mean, I wasn't 90 pounds. I'll never forget, I got to tell you this story because you brought it up. I was at Michigan Avenue School, and I won't mention the boy's name, but this boy, you know, sometimes when we're in school, these guys that's got a little bit more muscle, they like to make sure the girls know they got muscles.
Yeah.
Well, he threw me down the bleachers. I thought he was going to kill me, okay? And I never forgot that, though.
Your mother came out in.
Well, no, she didn't come out. Well, no.
But I mean, her personality.
Oh, yeah. And I wasn't going to fight him because he killed me.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm not stupid. I was just a runt.
Yeah.
Well, the good Lord sometimes brings things back around to you. So let me tell you what happened. I went to work for Kentucky Fried Chicken after I was 15 years old. When I was 16, I went to work for Mr. and Mrs. England.
John.
Well, it was Luther. John really wasn't.
Oh.
It was Luther and Juanita.
Oh.
Two of the finest.
On Wildwood or over here?
Over here on Key Street. But no, I don't know if you know this. We used to deliver the chicken to Wildwood. They didn't cook it.
I didn't know that.
Do you remember seeing the chicken trucks?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we delivered.
I didn't realize they were taking
that. We were delivering chicken over there.
It was the only place that had the buffet.
That's
exactly.
That? Oh, yes. Now, we didn't have it when I was there. That was after I had left.
Okay.
But, so back to Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was working at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was a manager, 16 years old. Okay. But again, to tell you that's what I believed. You got to, if you're going to move somewhere in life, you got to make that step. Some people don't want to. I did. Well, the gentleman that threw me down those steps came in for a job. And I was sitting back there at my desk. I let him come in, and he interviewed.
How old were you then?
I was 16 years old. Okay. He came in, and Ms. England said, "Hey, there's somebody here wanting to put an application in." I said, "Okay." So I walked back there, and gosh, there's that guy. And I just smiled. I let him fill out that application and ask him 10 or 15 questions. And I said, "Well, we'll let you know."
Yeah. That's what I would have said.
Now, do you want to know if I hired him or not?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I didn't hire him.
I wouldn't have hired him.
I didn't hire him.
No.
Everybody else, well, did you hire him? Well, no, I didn't hire him.
No.
He was mean to me.
Yeah. We're from East Cleveland. We don't do that, right?
That's exactly right. But I just thought to myself, now, but I didn't say he don't know that story today.
No.
Okay, and I never tell would never tell to him. But it was just kind of one of those things. The good Lord brought that thing back around for me to have peace with it. Okay. Now, did I get him back? Not really, but still, I felt better about it because here's a guy who picks on a little scrawny fella. See, and I'm for the scrawny boys. Let me just tell you, because that's where I came from. Yeah. And I don't like bullies. I mean, if you don't get on the bad side of me, if your kid's a bully, we got a problem. I'll just tell you, because I don't like bullies. I think we can get along and don't have to be bullies.
And they're not only in school; they're still out.
They're still out here in the public today. Okay.
Deal with some of these brick masons.
Yeah, they're a little tough sometimes.
Yeah, you got to really act like you got a gun in your pocket.
That's right, exactly. Well, that was an experience there.
And that was at Michigan Avenue?
That was at Michigan Avenue. It sure was. Michigan Avenue is not the same school it was back then. I'll assure you. It's a great place for kids to learn. We've been very blessed.
They say that's one of the best schools.
Well, it's
if anybody that's gone to Michigan Avenue really likes that school. I don't know if you knew Tyler Brown. Remember Tyler Brown?
Oh, yeah, I sure do. Yes, I sure do. Well, you'd be amazed.
I used to go to his Thanksgiving thing.
Oh, really?
Because me and Jerry Cross, we'd go because Jerry Cross watched after him. And anyway.
Makes a difference.
Hello, I'm Dee Burris, and most of you know me as a general contractor. In October of 2020, I started a podcast that I call The Discussion with Dee Burris. Each week, I have conversations with interesting, informative, and fascinating people from Cleveland and Bradley County and the surrounding areas. You can watch the discussion at deeburris.com on YouTube and Facebook, where we would ask you to please subscribe, it's free, for updates and notifications of new shows. It's no problem.
But now, where does the school board meet? To the average general person like me, you hear of the school board, I don't even know what they do. I don't even know where they meet.
Okay. Well, let me first tell you where they meet. They meet at South Lee Highway, right in front of Bradley Central High School. As soon as you turn into Bradley Central High School, the central office is right there. Okay.
That's the county school.
That's the county schools. That's exactly right. I served there for 20 years with probably the greatest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I loved it every moment that I've ever spent there.
You thought you could affect change?
No question. No question. We can. Sometimes people need encouragement and they need a help to push. And again, I didn't change the world, but I was there and they knew that I was going to be I am pro-education. If there ever was anybody ever run for office today, Troy Weathers they'll tell you Troy Weathers is pro-education. I believe it's critical for the future of our town. I think it's critical for the future of our state. But I tell you what I do bring to the table that most people didn't bring was I brought common sense to the table. You got that in East Cleveland, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to understand what life is out here.
Some have it, some don't.
Some have, some don't. And when you don't have it,
you're not going to get it.
You're not going to get it. It's not a gift.
No,
okay?
It's not something you worked at.
That's exactly right. It's not something that you think, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to have common sense tomorrow. It doesn't work. Well, if I brought anything to the table, I would tell you that most of the board members that I ever served will tell you that I brought common sense to the table. I'm a pusher. I believe in pushing the envelope. I won't watch. When I ran the first time, Dee, for school board, I said, I hope my decisions from this point forward will be what's good for kids, what's good for teachers, and what's good for parents. And if the decisions you make
in that order,
if they ain't good for those three, it's a bad decision. Just wake up and realize that. It don't take no rocket scientists to figure out that's just not going to be good for us.
That's what we're here for.
That was my philosophy. That's exactly right. Is we've got to do it for these folks, because if you don't have if it don't work for the kids, why do we do it in the first place? The teachers have got to buy into it. It's got to be they've got to be able to do what you need them to do, and then the parents has got to be a part of that. And if you have any of those three categories out of the loop, it's failure. It's what it is. So so my goal was always to try, I want to make sure that whatever we do, it's the right thing for everybody in that category.
Does the state tell you how you have to do it, or are we as a county really flexible in how we can do stuff, or how much flexibility is there?
I would tell you there's very minimal flexibility. The state has a requirement that, because they supply the testing, okay? So, and it's everything that we do today is based on taking a test, nothing else. You know, years ago, a teacher had the flexibility of doing, you know, if she thought multiplications got taught better this way, she could do that. Today, that's not how it works. Everybody in Bradley County schools, and I'm sure across the state, I'm confident it is, they have a set, this is the way we do it. We've taken the individuality out of teaching today. And not just today, but years. We've done it for years, okay? That we've just taken that away, which I'm not in favor of. But unfortunately, when the state is funding your programs, you don't have much choice.
That's where they get you.
That's where they get you. And then sometimes they send mandates down here, and it costs money that they send no money with. So I think that's important that we got to watch.
Who watches all that stuff? Who's sitting at the desk that says, here's another mandate, and we got to do it? Is there like an administrative person? Yes,
there sure is. We are constantly, because the laws change constantly, as you know.
It'd be a full-time job.
It's a full-time job of watching, paying attention to what we're doing. You know, let me give you an example. CRT, critical race theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know what it is.
Okay.
Other than
it's not good. How's that?
It's sort of wasn't it sort of a replay of something they kind of had in the 70s? It's not really new.
Well, it's a little different. Well, no, it's real different. And let me tell you why. What they're trying to do is they're trying to change the history of our country. Okay, that's what they tried to change. And you can't do that.
Can't do that.
Okay.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I didn't have anything to do with it, and you didn't either. Okay. And we have to button up our britches and let's move forward and stop. You can't look back now. You don't ever want to lose your history, because it's critical that we remember where we came from.
That's what's critical.
That's what's critical. Okay. Well, CRT, the state of Tennessee did a law that said that, or a mandate that said that we cannot teach that in our schools, which Bradley County Schools that's what I believe. So we did, as the chairman of the school board, I asked them to do a resolution that we'd all approve, that we would send to our teachers to make sure they knew that they can't teach CRT in our school system. Now, they'd already said you can't, but just because Nashville says you can't, don't mean you get the message.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. We make a lot of rules and laws that you and I know we have no clue what they're about, or what passed.
You may have a Lone Ranger out there.
That's exactly right. So I, as the chairman, decided we needed to do this. We did that. As of today, we're still the only school board that did a resolution to make sure that our teachers knew that they can't teach CRT. Now, let me tell you why that's the truth, or why that is the case. Because nobody wanted their offices flooded with people complaining about it. Well, let me just tell you, if I believe something, I'm a Republican conservative with common sense. If I believe it, I don't mind telling you that. And I'm not afraid of any group wants to come in and speak about it. It's okay with me. But I believe people ought to know where we stand. I don't think we ought to leave it a gray area. I don't believe in gray areas.
No.
Okay. I believe you ought to be honest. You ought to tell the people where we're at and where we're going. And I've always tried to do that. And I think that was when people say, well, how do we know you're conservative? Well, there's the prime example of being conservative and knowing that I believe what we believe as Republicans, and I believe the other folks would need to know that if they work under us.
And looking at some jeopardy of people, did you have many getting upset about it?
None. Not one. But see, so many people are afraid. You know, we get elected to these offices, and then we're afraid that we're going to lose the office. Okay? Jesse, I don't know if you know this, but I've lost one time. I was on the board 16 years, and I lost for 4 years and came back and won again 4 years ago. because things were said that wasn't necessarily all the truth. And that's usually what happens, Dee, in the political arena. People start rumors that are not true. But let me go ahead and just tell you, if you hear something really crazy, it's probably not true.
Yeah, if you go to the extremes, I found out this, even in the conservative party, Republicans and liberals, if you're listening to the far right or the far left, you're probably not on track.
You're probably
it's
not.
somewhere in the middle.
That's exactly right. And that's where and most of the time that's where I'm at. I want to do what's right for our community. Let me tell you, I'm from Cleveland, Tennessee. I had someone make a comment that that they didn't just move into the district. Well, I moved from the 4th district into the 3rd district downtown a year ago.
You're still in Bradley County.
Well, let me tell you, my address, my birth certificate said 980 South Ocoee Street, Cleveland, Tennessee. Did I live in Cleveland? I was born in Cleveland. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when I lived in the 4th district on 64 Highway, my address was Cleveland, Tennessee. When someone asked me anywhere in the country that I've ever traveled, they say, "Where are you from?" I didn't say Bradley County.
No,
I said Cleveland, Tennessee, because that's my home. And that's
I lived in the county, and I'd say Cleveland.
You're from Cleveland, Tennessee.
Sure, I am.
Okay, so I'm always amazed that people try to make those comments to throw people off. That, let me tell you,
and it could throw some people
absolutely,
off. They say,
absolutely.
"Oh man, he's from the county."
He's from the county. Well, let me tell you, I'm from Cleveland, Tennessee. Anything I've ever done, I've done what was right for the people of Cleveland and Bradley County, because that's where I live, and I have a legacy. Okay, that means something. My morals and legacy means something. I've got grandsons. I want to make sure someday they're going to be able to say, "Gosh, that my pop-pops," that's what they call me, his name's on this building here or on the plaque. I want them to be proud of that. I'm not going to do anything stupid to hurt Cleveland and Bradley County, because I love it with all my heart, just like I love the school systems with all my heart. I believe it's the key to our future, and that's why I've always done what I've done. But if you hear something crazy, Dee, let me just tell you,
I don't listen to that stuff.
Well, there's a lot of people that do, and I just hope that I
don't think they do.
Yeah.
I think the general public is smarter than people give them credit for.
Now, I agree with you there.
They don't believe all that.
That's
stuff.
right. You're exactly right.
And it's sort of like, well, I don't care. Those saying he's my dog even if he don't hunt.
Yeah. I understand.
I mean, I got people that I'm with, I'm for even if they're wrong.
That's right.
I just, I know the spirit of it.
That's right.
I know a lot of times you don't look at what people say or what they do, but what they generally do.
That's right.
And generally they're trying to make the right decision, and maybe they knew more about it than I did.
And I have said that for years.
Maybe there's some more about it, because I bet you there's all kinds of nuances in the school board, or even in the logistics of working at wholesale. Man, you couldn't sit here and explain to me all of it. I couldn't tell you how hard my day is going to be tomorrow, because you'd say, well, now Dee started lying, because it's just too complicated.
Right.
So sometimes we just have to say,
trust me.
The one thing is, I think we vote people into office to use their discretion.
Yeah.
I don't think we vote them in office to say what we all agree, because you'd have to have an election on every decision.
That's exactly right.
We're electing them to use their discretion, and let's let it go at that.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, what my mama used to say, because let me tell you, as a school board member, I've always tried to make the right decision for our school system, for our kids. Mm-hmm. Now, if you didn't know all the details behind it, you'd think, what was you thinking? But just like you said, when I have all the information, I came to that conclusion, and I hope and pray that the people who voted me in for 20 years, they believe that I was doing what's right for Bradley County school systems and our kids. And I think, as you know, I'm running for office for the 24th district. I would hope that the city of Cleveland and Bradley County would understand that I'm going to go, if I get an opportunity to serve our county as a state representative, I'm going to do what's right for Cleveland and Bradley County, period. I mean, that's the first gauge that I use, is what's right for us. What's going to help your business? What's going to help our community? What's going to help
You have no other agenda.
None. I have no agendas. I mean, Dee, I'm retired, so I don't need the money, and there's not much money anyway. And it's a part-time job. Is what it is. It's from January to April.
What is it? Let me go back
ahead.
to this. Did you ever know? I used to work at Cook's. Going back to use your own discretion. I worked at Cook's food store,
Okay.
and Conrad Day was my boss, and I was in charge of produce from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so, knowing me, I don't look it, but I am very detailed. So he came in one day, and I said, Conrad, I've got a list here. I'm gonna clean under the tables. And I made a little list, and he had his pipe. He said, "Dee, use your own discretion." He says it's yours.
Exactly.
I never will forget that.
Yeah.
But anyway, state representative. Now, you would really be a good one.
Well,
I mean, you really would, because you've seen all the sides. You've seen how mandates and policies can affect certain areas. But now that's the same job that Dan Howe has, right?
that is correct. It was I'm running in Mark Hall's seat. He's given his seat up to run for state senate. Okay.
Dan does a good job.
He does a great job. He is a wonderful representative for Cleveland, for Bradley County. He serves the Bradley County area.
One of the best.
Oh gosh.
I don't know how you gonna beat him. How are you going to beat what he does?
Well, I'm not. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to work hand in hand with him to make a difference.
Because he's a different.
Well, let me tell you.
If you had to run against him, you'd have trouble.
Well, I would ran.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm smarter than that.
Run, not ran.
That's right. Running.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be running against him. Okay. But he's a great guy. But what I plan on doing, just so you know, is I'm education. Okay, if anybody don't believe I'm education, something's wrong. That my life is part of that, and it always has been. So, if I'm elected, I'll be the only one in this whole southeastern area that's on the education committee. Education committee in Nashville is the largest expense to the taxpayers of Tennessee than anything else. We have the largest budget. So we need representation on that committee to make sure that we're not doing something that makes no logical sense whatsoever. And these mandates that we talked about earlier that they send down, and some of the rules that they send down for teachers. Well, here's my philosophy on those things. I'm one of those guys that believe that a teacher's plate is exactly full. As a matter of fact, it's overloaded right now. And if we're going to mandate anything from Nashville, we got to take something off that plate. And we just failed to do that. I don't know why, but we failed to do that. And we're absolutely running teachers out of the business, out of this industry.
They just can't do it all.
You just can't do it all.
Too much.
It's too much. And we've got to do something in Nashville to make sure that this don't continue. Because if not, we're not going to have teachers to teach our kids. I'm just telling you, we're going to have a shortage. Even though we've been blessed here in Bradley County to have, in Cleveland, to have Lee University, wonderful that they have an education department that's above, just absolutely wonderful for us. And it works. They fit into our system well. They do a great job. But we're going to run out of those folks if we don't do something about education and again, let these teachers do their job and stop putting mandates on them that makes no logical sense whatsoever. So I hope I'm that guy that can go up there. If you can tell already, Dee, I'm not afraid to talk. I'm not afraid to speak what I believe, because I'm not going anywhere to impress anybody. I'm going up there to do a job for Cleveland and Bradley County to make sure that we have representation that makes sense. And have someone up there that's bold enough to stand up and say, this is wrong. I mean, I'm not going up there I don't put, I've been up there several times dealing with issues, and they tell me our problem is we have people up there that pushes yes and no. Well, let me tell you, before I push yes or no, you're going to hear why I did push yes or no.
And you never know, they may be trying to get the union in.
Well, again, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, we got the union out here, okay? In the state, and we're going to leave it out because it works. Teachers don't need. When you have a system like we have here in Cleveland and Bradley County, teachers don't need representation. That we're being able to do more for them now than we ever did to help them do their job. So I'm very strong in supporting our teachers. I'm very strong in supporting our families. I believe that our future depends on it. And we're opening avenues as we speak. And let me tell you one that I don't know if you even know about, but the Pie Center. Are you familiar with our Pie Center we're opening?
Very familiar.
Well, let me tell you, that Pie Center is a game changer for education in Bradley County and the city of Cleveland. We will make a difference in the future of industry. Now, boys, you don't talk about that very often when it comes to education, but industry. We're open avenues for industries to come back to Cleveland. Right now, they can't hardly go. Industry is having a problem finding laborers to work.
That's my understanding. That Steve Wright has really spearheaded that, hasn't he?
Well, he has been one of the founders of helping us put this together. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you about Steve Wright and his company. Mm-hmm. This is what I have always said. That if we do anything in vocational, if we do anything, I want to make sure our kids can make the money to stay in Cleveland. I started the conversation out talking about that.
That's right.
Let me tell you how we get there now. Steve Wright, we have done 2 pilot programs the last 2 years with Steve Wright's company, Wright Brothers Construction. And we've taken kids from Bradley and Walker Valley, and we've put them in that, they've gone in that program. Last year, not this year, just last year, they hired 2 of Bradley High students. When the 2 kids graduated, they went to Alabama to work for Wright Brothers. When they got back here, one kid had every check that he'd ever gotten from them because he didn't have a checking account. So he didn't even know how to, he didn't even have a check, so he couldn't cash the checks. The checks were $2,000 a week plus. Now we're talking about a kid that's 18 years old. Now he had to leave home and go work and work for a living, but he got paid well. Now, let me tell you, that kid don't have to leave Cleveland, Tennessee. He'll be able to make a good living for his family for years to come. That's the whole idea behind the Pie Center, is we have companies like Wright Brothers and other companies that are moving into the Pie Center that the students, juniors and seniors from Walker Valley and Bradley High School will get to go to that program, be a part of it, learn the business inside and out. Then after it's over, when they graduate from high school, the company will say, okay, Dee, you've done this with us. We like you.
It's almost
and we want to
training
offer you. That's exactly what it is. But I get to, as a company, I get to pick and say, Dee, would you like a job with me? And I'm going to pay you well. And you already know what I do. You've done it. You've been doing it for 2 years. I know you're going to show up. You got the great attitude. Okay, you're smart. You're going to make good money starting out. So that's why the Pie Center is so critical for the future of Cleveland and Bradley County, because industry will come to Bradley County because of the Pie Center.
That's my understanding.
There's no question.
That's really what.
And we've never done that. Now people will tell you, "Oh, we do that already." Well, let me tell you, they don't.
Okay. No, the closest thing they've got is a welding class in Athens, right?
Right.
Or or H building in Bradley High.
That's right. Yeah. I went through H building. I took auto mechanics. Okay.
I took building trades.
Yeah, I took auto mechanics, and I'm just telling you.
Did you have agriculture?
Did not have agriculture.
I had agriculture.
I had 3 hours. So we took 3 hours of auto mechanics.
I did too. I took 3 hours of build. We sat in the room the whole time. We did not go to one job site. We played volleyball with milk cartons the whole year.
Yeah. Now, is that not crazy?
It was crazy. I knew it was then, but I just didn't.
But you didn't say anything.
I didn't have enough sense to know.
That's right. But this is so different than that, because we're going to be able to deal with. I'll give you one example. 4 years ago, when I came back on the board, we met with sports centers for medicine. Okay, Dr. Spangler, and when we met with them, they were interested in putting a facility there in the Pie Center, an operating facility. They're in business. It's a business. Okay, it's going to be their business. Well, I told him, I said, well, I want to make sure that our students have an opportunity to see every form of what you do, all the way as a receptionist, as a physical therapist. I even want them to have the opportunity, if a kid says, hey, I want to be a doctor, I want them to be able to sit down with you, Dr. Spangler, and let you tell them what it takes to be a doctor. Because
that's what this center's for.
That's what this center's for. And then Dr. Spangler said, if we get past that and they're still interested, I'll take them to surgery with me. Let them see what happens, what I do. Because so many times these kids have no clue what they really want to do. They graduate, they go to college, and they still don't have no clue. Now, I'm not saying that we have the answer to all clues. Don't get me wrong, but I'm telling you, it will put a huge difference in kids who know they don't want to go to college, and they like to have an opportunity to do well without having to go to a $70,000, $80,000 debt before they figure out what they want to do.
Yeah, that's really bad. I've got a son now that doesn't know if he wants to go to PA or a medical doctor, and he's really torn.
Yes.
And if he could spend 3 days in a row with either one of the twos, they'd solve the answer.
They'd solve the answer. That's exactly right. Well, I'm telling you, that's what that's how wonderful the Pie Center is going to be for our kids.
What does that stand for?
Partnership in Industry and Education.
Yeah, I'm doing the boys' club down there.
Yes. Yes, at the Pie Center. That's exactly right. Yes, which is wonderful.
It is.
That's a great organization, and that's why we wanted them in the Pie Center, because we wanted those kids that went there to have an opportunity to participate and be a part of our Pie Center.
They have a real passion, the boys' club.
They really do. I totally agree. They've got a heart for kids, and that's what it's about.
Boy, it's all about the kids.
It's all about
it. Ain't about the construction. It's not about the walls. It's about the.
You're exactly right. So I'm just telling you, and I do believe that the Pie Center is going to go across the state of Tennessee. You just watch. If we and I live long enough, that's what's going to be.
You think they'll have another one?
No question. Well, I can tell you the governor's been here. Who
was the brainchild of this?
I would have to tell you that probably the brainchild of this was Dr. Cash.
Is that right?
Yes. She had always believed that we need to do different what we're doing. And then the nice thing what happened is the Volker told Dr. Cash that they'd like to send them over to Germany. They paid all expense. I think maybe four people went, 4 or 5, I think it's 4. 4 people with Dr. Cash, including Dr. Cash, went to Germany. They saw how Germany does it and how they had something like the Pie Center.
They had something similar?
Yes, had something similar. And boy, it was just an eye-opener for them.
Is there anything like that in the United States, or is this really unique?
I can't tell you. I don't believe there is, okay? And if there is, we haven't been told.
I've never heard of anything to be such more. I mean, there's trade schools, but this is different.
Well, let me tell you what happened.
This is actually places that are in business.
That's right. I mean, it's there for a profit. Let me tell you the problem when I went to vocational school at Bradley. The problem was it was never funded very well. We had a great teacher. Bob Snyder was one of the finest men I've ever known.
I remember Bob.
Okay, but the problem was we never had anything that was current equipment.
It was all antiques.
It was all antiques. Okay, and so you got in there and you thought, well, Lord, I can't. If I left here, I couldn't go work for a dealership because I don't even know their machinery. You know what I mean?
Plus, you don't even know what it's like because all you're just taking.
Because we're just doing it. We worked as a mechanic, but it really wasn't.
But the Pie Center would be good for a person that's wanting to take that next level to see if they
this
like
is what
it,
I want to
experience
do. That's exactly.
I think like shadowing or something.
Right. That's exactly right. Let me tell you even the better news. And this don't happen every day. The Pie Center will be self-sufficient. It will not cost you and me as a taxpayer another penny because it generates its own income. And anything that we do there, all the equipment will stay updated. The building will be taken care of. I mean, it's going to pay its own way. Now that's not new. That's new in government.
That's new.
Let me just tell you, and that's probably the most exciting part when you talk about, gosh, we're going to have something that we don't have to put any more money in. We're very thankful that the county. I have to say this: we're thankful the county commission gave us $13 million in order to remodel or it's called a cold dry shell, dark shell. Okay, that building. Now we have put another probably $20 million in it, but it hasn't cost the taxpayers a penny. Now, some of my friends will say, well, yes, it did cost you. But let me tell you what we did. We wrote grants like you would not believe. We've had people locally that gave us money. Little Debbie's bought Little Debbie's last night, by the way, because I appreciate what they've done for our community. They gave us $1 million. Now they're in Ooltewah, not Cleveland, but they saw the value that what we're bringing to the table for our kids here. So they put their money and gave us $1 million. To be honest with you, it's more than $1 million. Even the family gave us money above that. So I'm just telling you, people are committed. They see the vision that we have for our community and for our state. And I truly believe I was telling you earlier, the governor's been here, the secretary of the Speaker of the House has been here, the Secretary of Education has been here. I'm just telling you, this model will be moved across the state. I truly believe that. In different forms, different fashions, but it'll be the same type.
I didn't realize it was such a a big deal. But you convinced me.
Well, I'm telling you that the chamber has been a part of that. The industry board has been a part of that.
County commission.
County commission. It just meets so many different areas, not just education. You know, we talk about education, and education is wonderful, but this year is so much more than just education. It touches 10 or 12 different areas of our state that it's going to affect. So it makes it a whole lot easier for people to believe what we're doing and it's going to work. I mean, we believe it's going to work. We have no doubt. We had naysayers, just like anything you do. You'll have naysayers, okay? But let me tell you, it won't be long. The proof is in the pudding. We're going to have kids that are going to work for companies that we have there that's going to make a difference in their lives. And that's what it's all about. We can't do that just on the educational side. We had to have industry in order for us to really do the job we needed to do.
Because it needed to be for-profit businesses to really...
Yeah, I mean, if they're not for profit, what good did it do?
You got H-Hog again.
You got H-Hog again. That's exactly right. So now we're going to be able to, because of them being there, we're going to be able to have an income there that pays its own way, buying new equipment, because it's, as you know, it's like a computer. After 2 or 3 years, computers, they're void. They can't do the things, the new programs that are out there. And if you don't stay current, your kids fall behind.
I think some of those places at Bradley are now doing that too. They got programs different than we went there. They actually have, and you know, the FFA used to have where you made we'd plant hanging baskets and stuff, and then you sewed them. So it was a form of that. And we still do that, by the way. We still do that in FFA. Okay, so they haven't stopped doing that, which is a wonderful program. Kids, I was fortunate enough, Dee, I went to their banquet this year. And I was just totally impressed by how the students ran the banquet. Okay, they're the ones who did it, and they did all the speaking. And I'm just telling you, we've got some great kids in Cleveland and Bradley County. Great kids. Our future is brighter than it's ever been, in my opinion. The kids know what they're doing. They've got a good attitude. And I'm not sure if you know this, but we have got one of the highest graduation rates in the southeast state of Tennessee. Is that right?
We sure have. And now what does that mean for you and me? That means that our jail, okay, is going to, I mean, that's our job, is to make sure that our kids don't end up over there. Well, when I was a kid, I remember they used to tell me, Dee, if you get a high school education, you can be somebody.
I remember
because
that.
I would say that when you and I went to school, we probably had a 75% graduation rate, maybe less.
A lot of people just went to the part of the 11th grade.
That's exactly right. So today, you know, that we were told, and that's why I finished high school, because I've got to finish high school because I want to be somebody. I want to have something someday. Today, we kindly veered to the left a little bit, in my opinion, of saying that, well, you got to have a college education. Well, I don't agree with that. Everybody's not made for college.
No.
And that's why this PI Center is so critical for those kids who don't want to waste their money going to college, because they really don't want to go in the first place. Just mom and dad. I mean, my kid was going to go to college no matter what. Well, now she has pursued what she went to college for, thank goodness.
Well, college makes you, they have such a broad thing where they're, you know, you're going to be this, but you'd have to take this class to be well-rounded.
That's right.
So this PI Center really confines what you really want. It allows you to see what you want to do in real time.
Right.
And if you want to do it, you can focus on that one industry.
You know, and here's the other thing: we're taking bus service. If they don't have a car, we're bringing them there, and taking them back to their school so they can catch a bus to go home. So it doesn't matter what obstacle you're going to have in your life. We're going to do everything we can to make sure you get to participate. Now again, everybody don't get to. By the way, you've got to qualify. Okay, you've got to have the grades. You've got to have. You can't be a troublemaker. You've got to be a good student. But if you're a good student, we're going to do everything we can. Doesn't matter if social economics, doesn't matter what's in your way. We're going to make sure Dee Burris gets to go in that PI Center and be a part of it for his future.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
What about the bus services? Is they having a hard time getting people to drive buses now, or is it COVID hit, or how is that work?
Well, to be honest with you, now we only had last year, from my memory, we only had one bus that we had some problems with for a bus driver. The Bradley County school system doesn't own those buses. Now we own the small buses, okay, for our special needs students, but our regular buses is contracted out. Oh. So we don't own those, and we've only, as far as I know, we only had one this past year that we had problems with. And that's it, which is very good, by the way.
Yeah, that's a minor amount.
Yeah, very minor, and it wasn't ever done.
Maybe it was the city school, but does the city own their own buses?
They own their own buses. That's correct. So they've got to hire the drivers and train them and all these things. And
it'd be better to just do like the county and.
Well, they both have advantages, okay, and disadvantages. Mm-hmm. So, but we just didn't have the money. We've never had the money to be able to invest in a brand new buses. Because, fact is, you know, in Bradley County schools versus city schools, you know, they get the same money we get for a student, plus they get the city money also for students.
And that's a long way to go out to Keith Valley Road,
It
right?
sure is. That's exactly right. So it only makes sense. It works well for us. To do what we're doing, and it's worked well for the 20 years I've served on the board. It's been a very good decision, and those people are dedicated. I mean, we're talking about people who's been driving for 30 or 40 years.
Oh yeah, Charlie McKenzie drove one for years.
For years, okay.
Years.
And I've got lots of folks. I remember Short Carson used to be my bus driver. I don't know if you remember him or not. He lived out on Benton Pike. Oh, Short Carson, he was a character.
Did he have a couple of buses he kept at his house?
He did. Out there on Benton Pike, right there. If you're ever going to have an accident when it first rains, you're going to have it right there in front of his house.
Boy, that's the
There's
truth.
a little kind of dip curve.
And the asphalt has got that slick.
I mean slick.
Boy, that's so dangerous.
And I'm not sure. I don't know why we haven't done a whole lot with that.
I don't know.
But I'm telling you, if it starts raining for the first 5 minutes, if you're going to have an accident, that's where you'll have it.
Every time it starts raining and it's been dry for a few days,
that's right.
I text both my boys and say, "Be careful. The roads are slick."
Yes.
Because after rain.
You're right.
Isn't that weird why I do that?
Well, no, you care about your boys. My daughter, I'll never forget this. She had graduated from high school. And I'm kind of one of those guys, if you do what's right, I'm going to do what you want as much as I possibly can for my kids. And my oldest daughter, she had graduated from high school and she wanted a Jeep. Now that didn't go over real well with her mother, but I bought her a Jeep.
Because they can top over.
Yeah, they can top over.
Stuff,
well, you know, you always sometimes you think, oh gosh, did I make that decision? So I did make that decision. I got her one. She was coming across Peach Orchard, and it had just rained, and she flipped that thing.
Golly.
And she was fine. She wasn't hurt. But I'm one of those guys that you don't just give up. We fixed the Jeep and I put her back in it because I wanted her to know that you get up, you dust yourself off.
Yeah, we can sell it 3 weeks later, but we're going to go back to riding it for a few weeks.
Now she kept it till she was married, and I think she finally sold it maybe 3 or 4 years ago because she started having she had my first grandson, so the Jeep didn't work real well for her. So it was good, but it was a learning experience for her. But I do believe that. You know, if a kid didn't get my oldest daughter didn't give me 1 minute's problem. Okay, she was a good kid. Now, did we have some ruffles? Everyone, of course you do. But overall, she was a great kid, and I felt like that because what she's done in school, she deserved to have what she wanted.
Well, you know if they're responsible.
That's right, and
you know that.
Oh yeah, well she's her daddy's child. I mean, she's very responsible. She cares about what she does. She works hard. You know, she's funny. She wrote something, and Lord, I'll get emotional about it. But she wrote about her daddy today, which is me, and she said, "I remember the days that my daddy took me to school, and it wasn't a lecture. It was life." Things about life. Honey, this is what you need to look for. This is what you need to do. If you want to be here, this is what you have to do. And I talk to her every day about that in life because I think it's important that we teach our kids what we want them to be taught for life. Okay? And if we don't, they go out there with a void that somebody else is going to teach them the things of life.
Somebody's going to teach them.
Somebody's going to teach them. Well, I didn't want nobody to have a chance teaching my girls because I still lecture them today. I've got 2 other girls now. I've remarried, and they've had the same speeches that the first one had because I want them to know this is where we're headed. If you're gonna get somewhere in life, this is the road you've got to be taking, and you can't do these other things that other people do.
Do you find that your advice has changed over the years? Maybe something that you'd say before you don't say now, or I mean, do they?
I don't believe it has, to be honest with you.
So you were very basic.
I was very basic in life
because the basics don't change.
The basics don't change, and and see, that's the problem. That's the problem that our kids don't get is the basics. Mm-hmm. The basics is what brings the foundation to where we build upon. So I want to make sure that my girls have the basic, okay? That know what they know what they're supposed to do, how to act, what to say, what their responses should be. They understand those things now, and I think it's critical that all of our kids have that ability. But and let me say, if you get in the truck with me and the doors are closed, mm-hmm. if you're one of my kids, guess what? You're going to hear it.
You're getting not a lecture,
you're going to get a life lesson. A life. That's what my daughter called it today. Mm-hmm. She said, I got all kinds of life lessons. Okay. But I think that's what you got to do as a parent.
She'll give it to her kid.
She'll give it to her kid. You're exactly right, Dee. That's exactly. I'm amazed. I got to tell you a story to prove that point to you. I have my middle daughter. Okay, she. I'm always one of those guys. If you leave the lights on, guys, we're going to problem. Okay, if you leave the room, turn the lights off. Because that's just money wasted. I mean, mm-hmm. I guess I probably learned that from Lynn Davis, okay?
That's what I was thinking.
But I say I probably learned that from him. But I realize that's a bill you got to pay. Mm-hmm. So I have every time the girls left a room, I turn the light out, turn it. Well, you wonder, do they ever hear you? Well, let me tell you what happened. She got married. She married a great guy, okay? They couldn't ask for a better son-in-law.
Boy, ain't that good. Knock on wood.
Hey, let me tell you.
It could be bad.
It's a big. I got two daughters married, and they got great son. I got two great son-in-laws. I'm very blessed. Well, so the middle daughter, she came home one day, and she looked upstairs. She lives in her house. She got upstairs, and she looked up there, and the lights were on. Oh, gosh almighty, she went off on her husband. Said, you can't leave these lights on. And then when they told me that story, I just thought back at the times I've said that to those girls all their life, the biggest part of their life, saying, "Guys, you can't do this. You got to turn those lights out because that's money."
And there's nobody in there.
Did she listen? She listened. I didn't know it. Mm-hmm. So that's why life lessons are critical to give to your kids on a constant basis. Remind them who they are, where they're going, and what they want to be.
And when you get them in the car, taking them to school or something, you got them captive. They have to listen.
What, they can't get out. They don't slow down.
Yeah.
But you're right. But that was the best time of my life, taking my daughter to school every day and being able to have those conversations with her, and not knowing that all those things that I said, it meant something to her.
And it's because you're scared. You're scared.
You're exactly right.
If you want residential or commercial plumbing, give Rick's Plumbing a call. Call Jason or Josh. They'll do you a good job. I've used them for years. They're no problem.
So, fill in the gap. You're graduating high school, and you go working for the Lynn Davis.
Well, Lynn Davis I worked when I was 11 years old. So Lynn was gone after I graduated high school. That was over. I worked for Lynn, and I worked there till I was 15. Then I went to work for Kentucky Fried Chicken till I was 19, and then I went into the Army. Now, a lot of people say, why in the world would you ever go in the Army? It was peacetime. It was after Vietnam. But I don't know, I had some burning, and it makes no sense, but for somewhere in my soul, I had a burning desire to serve our country.
Well, you just signed up for a recruiter? Went to a recruiter
and recruited and signed up.
Where was the office at?
The office, gosh, where was it at? I got to think a minute, because they've been moved several times. If I'm not mistaken, it was down by Red Food Store, when Red Food Store was there on Key Street. There was in one of those little shopping things. Nope, that's not true. There was a DeVillage. There was a DeVillage Mall. That's exactly where they were at. There was a DeVillage Mall.
Did you have a friend that was in, or you just?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. We went back in 1979. Okay, in 1979 they had a program where you could go in the military with your buddy. So we went in as buddies. Okay, so what that meant that meant that him and I would go to basic training together. We'd go to AIT together if we had the same MOS, or similar MOS. It had to be that we didn't have the same MOS, but similar. And then when we left there, we'd go to our first permanent station together. And his name was Don Pritchard.
Don Pritchard.
As a matter of fact, I think he made a career out at Maytag or Magic Chef. He started back at Magic Chef when we came back from the military. But him and I went in together.
What song was playing on the radio? What was a
gosh.
popular song at that 1979?
That you remember? I don't even remember. It was probably some love story that made me cry, if you don't know the truth.
Were you rock and roll? Or?
Oh, no. I was
Crosby, Stills, and Nash?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I was probably there. I was mellow. I was not into. To be honest with you, as of today, I still have never been to a concert.
Is that right?
Well, we didn't have no money, so it was just kind of one of those things. It's kind of like. Now, this really sounds silly, and I'm off the subject, but it's kind of like putting salt in your food. We didn't have salt when I was a kid, so I don't put salt on food. But I go to eat people, man, they just salting everything up. And I think it's just sometimes things are just habits, okay? Mm-hmm. But back to the point, I went to the military, we went in together, and we left here and went to Knoxville, caught a plane, never flew in my life, okay, and flew to St. Louis, Missouri. Got off the plane, got on some cattle trucks, is what we call them, and the first thing I heard was this woman, a drill sergeant, calling us everything but you can imagine. And I'd never been talked like that before in my life. We don't do that, okay, here in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And but it was a great experience. I went in the military and
were you in shape?
No. I mean, I was a young boy, but
Did they whip you into shape?
Woo! Now, my buddy that went in with me, he was overweight. When he got out of basic training, he wasn't overweight anymore. Let me just go ahead and tell you. Because before you could eat, I'll never forget, they had monkey bars, okay? So if we all had to do the monkey bars to be able to go to the mess hall. So if you fail on the monkey bars, you had to go back and get in line and do it again till you did it. Well, let me tell you, my buddy lost. I don't think I lost any weight because I was that big anyway. But let me tell you, he was a different man after basic training.
There's no exceptions. You had to go across the monkey bars.
No exceptions. You went across the monkey bars, you didn't eat. So, and that's just the way it was. But Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri is where I ended up for basic training. Now, the advantage that him and I had is because we had vocational, we automatically became a private E2 going in instead of an E1. Now you think, well, that don't really. What does that mean? Well, that meant that I was ended up being a charge of a squadron. So that means I had a private room.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal. I mean, a big deal because you're talking about they had rooms that had 70, 80, 100 people in it. Okay. So, but we had him and I got to share a room by ourselves.
All because you'd gone to trade school.
Because we went to Braley High School and we had auto mechanics.
Yeah.
And he had auto mechanics, so we automatically got a stripe. So we were a private first class, and everybody else was privates. And now the military takes that serious.
Private first class Gomer Powell.
Gomer Powell, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we went to the military, and we went to basic training there. I'll never forget, I always talk about when we went, you have to go out to, they called it bivouac. A part of your basic training, you had to go out in the woods for 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. So we went out there, and I was
bathrooms out there for 2 weeks?
No, sir, there's no bathrooms out there for 2 weeks. No, they didn't have porta-top toilets either. You dug holes.
Soap?
Well, they had soap. We had soap. And had portable showers, okay?
How do you mean portable showers?
Well, they had trucks that came out, and it had a pump on it, and you was able to take a shower. It had a curtain.
In the truck or outside?
No, outside the truck. Oh. Outside the truck. But it was a great experience. It was a great experience for basic training. I was very fortunate in basic training. I did very well, to be honest with you. I was one of the top soldiers in my basic training because I'll go back to the thing that I want to be the best there is. Okay. And I always have one. And in there, I was the only guy that made 100. It may sound nothing today, but it was then. I made 100 on every test they gave us. 100. And so
you really studied for it?
I studied. I was at nighttime, had a blanket over my head, studying to make sure that I was ready for it. And I took it serious. I mean, I was one of those guys that the salute meant. I mean, I knew how to salute because I wanted to make sure I did it right. I knew how to stand at attention. I knew those things.
Did you go get a book out of the library before you went to kind of study up?
I did not.
I mean, as far as saluting and all that stuff.
Nope. It's just when they told us how to do it, I learned real quick. Okay, and I wanted to be good at it.
Because you might have learned it the wrong way.
That's exactly right. So I was very fortunate because I made those hundreds. I got privileges that most guys didn't get. Okay, I can remember we got a picture of me being in my dress greens and him being in his khakis, and I was going off post and he was going back for duty. And we still laugh about that today because it was just funny.
You were trying to get out of East Cleveland.
That's exactly right. That was an avenue. Okay,
I felt. I mean, you were that was in East Cleveland, and you were trying to get out, even there.
Right. Well,
always trying to get out of where you're at.
That's right. To better yourself. Yeah. And it was a great experience. Basic training. I took AIT at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and Fort Knox, Kentucky was one cold place. Let me tell you. Now I didn't get to see any of the gold. But it was AIT, and my MOS was 63 Charlie. I was a tank mechanic. Now, I don't know why I decided to be a tank mechanic. I think, I'll never remember, the recruiter, I'll never forget this. The recruiter said, oh gosh, he said, you're going to be pulling them big old pistons out of that. You know, being auto mechanics, man, that's your dream, okay? Yeah. So, he said that, and I thought, man, that's what I want to do. That's it. Well, to be honest with you, I never saw a piston unless it came through the side of the motor. So we really never got to rebuild one because, see, the civilians did that in the military. Yeah. We didn't do that. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that, obviously, and he may not tell me all the truth. Yeah. But again, it was great. AIT was at Fort Knox. They taught us all kinds of stuff, really good material. Let me tell you, the Army, if the Army has anything, they got the best manuals that money can buy. I mean, it was so detailed, you can read that, and buddy, it puts you where you need to go.
They didn't leave nothing out.
They left nothing out. That's exactly right. They didn't leave nothing to think about. You knew it when you read it, okay? And so then when I got done with AIT, I went to Fort Stewart, Georgia. Now, I was in the dead of winter at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I went to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and it was like summertime. I mean, I thought, I have died and gone to heaven. I really thought that. I thought, this is great. Okay. Yeah. Well, it was hot. But I'll never forget my first experience, Dee. When I got there, they wanted to take me down and introduce me to the motor pool sergeant, okay, the guy that I'll be working for. Well, I get down there, and again, having mechanical background, I understand, I wasn't naive, okay? Well, I get down there, and here's this motor sergeant sitting there, and a guy came in, I'll never forget it. He came in the office, and on an M60 tank, that's what they had when I was there, okay? M60 tank, if you lost all the power on that tank, you could still fire a shell. It had an igniter that generated just a little bit of electricity to fire the shell. So you could still shoot a shell no matter what happens to your tank. Well, this one wasn't working. So this other mechanic brought it in while I was standing there, and he asked the motor pool sergeant, said, hey, can you test this for continuity to see if this wire's okay? He said, sure. He takes a cigarette out of his mouth and puts it in the metal ashtray. Okay, it's when we had metal ashtrays. Remember those? Yeah. Well, I was standing there, and he took the continuity, he took the multimeter test there, okay? Now, a continuity check means that I'm going to check from here to here. It tells me if I have a breakage in this wire. I put one on this end, one on this end. See if there's no breakage. If you have current, if your needle moves, it means you've got current. It'll go through there. Well, I was standing there. The motor pool sergeant, he took one lead and hooked it to one of the leads. He took the other one and touched the ashtray. I kid you not, touched his metal ashtray. I went, holy moly, I cannot believe this. So I realized real quick that obviously nobody knew how to troubleshoot there. Because if he was leading us, we're in trouble on troubleshooting. So I took manuals home. This is honest God's truth. I took manuals. When I say home, I lived in the barracks. So I took manuals to the barracks and I studied the wiring schematics for a tank. And I could read that. I could troubleshoot like you've never seen anybody troubleshoot. I knew it like the back of my hand. Well, it was the smartest thing that I've ever done in my life because of the fact that when they found out that I knew what I was doing, because let me tell you, unfortunately, even in society and the military, sometimes we just have parts changers. Okay? They don't really know what they're doing. They're just changing parts trying to fix the problem. And it gets very expensive when you're buying parts for a tank. Sure. When you don't know what you're doing. So I would go in there and I'd troubleshoot it and say, this is what's wrong with this box right here. They get it, it fixed it. Because I knew it.
You just read the manual.
Yeah, I just read the manual, studied the wiring diagram, understood what, and then tried to understand what each thing did, okay? So you still got to have that also. We've got to have knowledge of the operational of the tank. So I would did that for our whole. I was in 2nd 9th Cavalry. I would do that for the whole division. Okay, they would have me come and check their tanks because, you know, we were on ready 24/7. So if you had very many tanks down, you were in trouble. I mean, you got hot. You were in hot water.
Somebody's going to get in trouble.
Somebody's butt's going to get. Probably not going to be your butt, but somebody's butt's going to be in trouble. Okay, so I was their troubleshooter.
They were your Lloyd Rogers.
That's exactly right. And so I was their troubleshooter to fix electrical issues. Even over, we had a warrant officer. I don't know if you're familiar with a warrant officer, but a warrant officer, you know, you have like your colonel and your commissioned officers. Then you have your warrant officers. Then you have your non-commissioned officers, which was corporals and sergeants and those folks. Okay, and warrant officers, they were the technical experts. Okay, and he couldn't even do it.
Colonel Bull on Gomer Powell was a warrant officer.
Yes. So it was kind of one of those deals. So it really worked out well for me. I had a great 3-year term in there. I met great people.
You were kind of on easy street after you kind of.
Yeah, after I got there and they realized the ability I have. This is, Dee, you'll love this. I used to work on the colonel's personal cars of our division, the colonel. He had me working on his personal cars for, he had 2 or 3 kids that had cars on base, you know, went to school. So I did all their repairs for them. So it was funny. But it was a great experience for me. And like I say, I did not stay. I stayed 3 years. That was my term, and decided to come home.
So it wasn't 2 years or 4 years.
No, it was 3.
That's an odd.
That was odd. It was a special deal.
That caused a special deal.
Yeah, it was a special deal.
So you had to, because normally it'd be 2 years, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. But it was a great 3 years. It was a game changer for me. Life. I learned a lot. Experienced a lot.
Do you do stuff today that they drilled in your head then? Like,
oh gosh, yeah. Probably the thing that drilled the most, to be honest with you, is the love of the flag for me. Okay. Now let me just tell you, that's sensitive to me. I take it personal because I was ready to get. I was there. Let me tell you, I was there in basic training when Iran took the hostages. You remember that?
I remember the Iran Contra. The 102 days.
That's
or
exactly right.
They wouldn't let them out till Reagan.
That's exactly right. Well, that day when they took them, I'll never forget as long as I live. My drill sergeant came out and he called us out and he said, "Boys, men, we're going to go to war. So you need to pay attention to what we're doing. You need to learn everything you can because we're going to go to war. You're the first ones to go because you're the most trained. I mean, you know, freshly trained, you know what you're doing, you'll be going." Now, I don't know how true that was, but I believed him, okay? I believed him. And I guarantee you most of the guys believed him. But it was an experience that I'll never forget. And then the day that Ronald Reagan, that's when I became a Republican, just so you know, when Ronald Reagan took office, and they released them immediately. I'll never forget the day. I'll never forget it.
Because on the news, they would count the day. Every morning you got it, they'd say 109 days.
That's right. And when he raised his hand,
I felt so stupid.
Yeah, when he raised his hand and swore in, the moment he swore in, they released the hostages. That was the man I wanted to follow. That was the guy that I believed in.
What made them know that he would have done something? Well, because he was just a movie actor.
Yeah. Because he said he would, and I believe he was believable. He was believable. He was believable. Okay,
I believe he was.
I believe he was going to war. I'm just telling you, we were ready. I mean, we were just, when he was getting swore in. I was at permanent station. Yeah. We were ready to go. Didn't matter where he took us.
He said, "Trust and verify." Or what was it? He said.
I don't remember.
What was his famous quote? Trust but verify. Or something.
Well, that makes sense. But I'm telling you, we knew, the soldiers of the United States Army knew that the day he took office, we may be going to war. Because that's what he said. He said, "We're coming."
Well, remember the airplane, what do you call those traffic controllers? They said, "We'll quit." Yes. He said, "Quit.
Goodbye." I mean,
they had nearly all the planes shut down for a couple. Nobody knew how to air traffic
controllers, what they are. Yes. Well, I'm telling you that it just proved that he if he said it, he believed it, and that's what I liked about him. He just wasn't. He didn't just say it just to be entertaining of somebody. He was there, and if I said it, you can take it to the bank with you.
What year was he president?
He was president in 1980 to 84, if I'm not mistaken, because I went in 79. And Carter was the president then.
That's when everything shut down, and me and my uncle renovated one house.
Yeah, and that's when, if you remember, that's when the interest rate was 16, 17, 18%.
We did
on a house.
We did an addition on one house, like for a year, in Hope Acres. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as Reagan got in and dropped the capital gains tax, it went off, and basically it didn't stop till 2006.
You're right.
I mean, there was a law or so,
of course,
but
nothing.
Very little, very minimum.
Yeah. Well, Reagan was a great president. He did exactly what he said he'd do when he went in. Mm-hmm. And you believed him, okay? And I think
he could go across the aisle too. I mean,
right.
He had them both okay with it.
It was just like when he went to Germany and said, "Tear this wall down."
I'll never forget that. Tear this wall down.
So, but military was a great experience for me, and it has been it's been huge for me in my past and future. And let me tell you why. When I was in the military for the 3 years and was very successful. I got, here's something that's odd. After 1 year, I was promoted to corporal. Now, 63 Charlie, if anybody out there that's in the military knows that don't qualify for a stripe. That qualifies for you to be what they call a Spec 4, which in our world, a Spec 4 was just an overpaid private. Okay? You was a specialist. I mean, really meant nothing, okay? We all hated it. And so they were wanting me to take over and be a tank commander. It wasn't a tank. It was what they called an M88. It was a recovery vehicle. It's the one that worked on all the tanks. We go out in the field and bring them home if it broke down. We could repair them. We could lift them. We had, it was like a wrecker is what it was, okay? But it was a mobile shop is what it was. We could weld. We could do anything. It was unbelievable what that piece of equipment was made for. We could knock down trees. We made roads. We could knock down trees like it was nothing, any size. So they want to make me commander of that. So I told them, I said, guys, I'm not going to be a commander at Spec 4. Nobody respects you. I'll do it for corporal if you want to do it. So they got special orders for me to be promoted to corporal. So I was probably one of the first corporals ever in that MOS. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I was a corporal for a year. We went down to Eglin Air Force Base on a 2-week, 3-week, whatever, I don't remember how many weeks it was, that we had to have exercise in the field. And we took all of our equipment down to Savannah Port, loaded them on ships, and shipped them all the way over to Eglin Air Force Base, okay, which is right there at Destin, Florida. And I was there, and I'll never forget it. They called me that my CEO came and said, "Hey, Corporal Weathers, we've got to go to the headquarters. They want you to headquarters in 30 minutes or whatever it was." So I said, okay. So we took off, got to headquarters, and I was promoted to sergeant in the field after 2 years.
What do they call that? Field promotion. Field promotion. Yeah.
I was, and I'm just telling you, and people in the military will understand this. That don't happen. Okay, you don't get that kind of rank that quick ever. Not in peacetime. We weren't in war. I mean, we had not shot a gun yet, okay, or a bullet at anybody. So it was all peacetime, and I was a sergeant within 2 years. So then I took over being the motor pool sergeant because that's what they wanted me. They wanted me to be the motor pool sergeant because of the fact that we had a great shortage in the military for people to have the ability to do that. The gentleman that I spoke about earlier that did the test, he was a grunt. He was 11 Bravo. So he was an infantryman in a slot that he really should never been put in. So it wasn't his fault, in other words.
Do you consider yourself a veteran? Is that what you're still,
absolutely.
even though you're
no
not?
Question. No question. Let me tell you, I told someone the other day, and I get emotional thinking about all the people that died for our freedom. You know, we talked about the flag a few minutes ago. I stand attention at the flag every time. I know where my hand goes every time because it means something to me. And I never went to war, but trust me, I went through all the emotions for sure the last 2 years when we were come up on call and you got yourself inside there and we stood there with our backpacks ready to load on ships and load on a plane. That happened on a regular basis. Because we were the ones, the 2nd 9th Cavalry Unit, Fort Stewart, we were the front runners, okay? So we stayed on alert constantly. So I knew, never had to go anywhere, but we sit there waiting. You still go through the same emotions.
Same thing,
okay? Yeah. So I have a great...
Maybe even worse because it's anticipation all the
anticipation just is terrible. But I believe that I'm a veteran. I serve my country with pride. I love this country, and if they call me back today, I'd go. Okay, because I believe we've got the greatest country on earth. And I believe that it was the greatest opportunity for me to serve our country, to do what's right, and to, I tell people, unfortunately, I was a tank mechanic. I hadn't seen any tanks run down the road here lately. So that wasn't part of it. That wasn't the only thing I learned, though, was a good part. There's a lot of stuff that I learned about people, about serving, about being a part of your community, loving your country. Let me tell you, there's nothing no greater knowing that I served our country in order to make sure that everybody else, I was a part of their freedom, preserving their freedom. I didn't give my life, but I was there online with a lot of other folks standing in the gap, in other words.
You were ready.
I was ready. And I don't regret that at all, by the way. It was an honor to be there. And I was ready. We were ready and prepared. I truly believe that we've got the best army in the world. The best. We will defend, and we will win wherever you take us, wherever we go. And that's the attitude they have. It don't matter if you're Army, Air Force, Marines.
You
Navy.
still think the military is as strong as it was, and I know now they're not as, they're been in the news a lot lately, but I guess it's still the best military there is.
It's the best military in the world. And let me tell you, here's what people don't sometimes realize. We are a sampling of our community, of our world, of our country in the military. So we've got bad, we've got good. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So everything's not perfect, but we have one goal. And let me tell you, I wasn't one of those people. I wasn't a Green Beret. Didn't want to be. Okay, not that I
you weren't a Navy SEAL. Or
didn't have that desire to do that. But let me tell you, I ran into some people in the military that's in the Army with me, stationed in the 2nd 9th Cavalry. That let me tell you, if we go to war, I wanted to be with him because he knew what he was doing. Let me tell you, he was good. And he knew what he was doing. He knew, and I had a feeling that if I had that opportunity, if it ever happened, I'm going to hang a little close to him because I'm going to come home.
Did you literally kind of pick those people out?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you always wanted, you wanted the best. I want the best with me. I'll just tell you. And they wanted me to be with them because I could fix anything.
When I cycle, I go with these groups, and I'll pick out the biggest guy in the group, and I try to get behind him because I can draft behind him. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Just not as critical.
That's right. But I'm just telling you, that was important. I made sure that I was with the right folks, and I want to make sure that if we ever went to war, you can be assured I'm going to be on the team that gets to come home because they were smart. They knew what they were doing, and they, sometimes you get in a group that somebody's crazy and want to be the Mr. Brave. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't want somebody who wants to be the hero. I want somebody who wants to do the job and bring us home. That's who I want to be a part of. And the same thing in the political arena, Cleveland, Tennessee, Nashville. You want somebody that's going to be able to go up there, do what's right,
use their own discretion,
and use their discretion, and come home. Okay, and make sure that we're taking care of our people. I'll be honest with you, I don't have no desire. I was in Nashville. I got to tell you this story. And we're off military. Military was a great opportunity for anybody. I suggested anybody ever wants to go, it's a great opportunity for them. I'm just telling you. But I've always said that now that I'm running for office for the 24th District, I was in Nashville in November of last year. And I was in a group with 200 school board members. It was a school board, our annual convention, okay? Mm-hmm. And we had about 7 legislators sitting up front. And I sit there and I listen to everybody talk and ask questions. And, I finally just thought to myself, somebody just needs to tell them this. So I raised my hand, stood up, and I said, lots of times when we make laws to benefit against somebody else. Let me explain. Memphis and Nashville has struggled in education for many years, and there's still struggles today. And sometimes we make laws in the legislative to fix their problems, but it messes up us in Cleveland, Tennessee, okay? And I got up and I said, gentlemen, every time we get some kind of mandate or things of that nature to come here to Cleveland that affects us, I'm always told that we did it because of Memphis and Nashville. I said, won't you do us one favor? Now, you've talked about in this conversation today that, you could take over our school system. Why don't you take over Memphis and Nashville and leave us alone? Mm-hmm. We'd be a lot better off. And I sit down. Now, I probably didn't make a lot of friends that day, but I sure had 200. I had 200 people clapping and saying, "I wished I'd have said it. I just didn't have guts to say it." Okay. One thing that I am, Dee, I don't hide who I am. I don't try to be who I'm not. I'm Troy Weathers. I care about people in Cleveland and Bradley County. They're the dearest to my heart. And my future is here. Not in Nashville, not in Memphis, not in anywhere else. This is where I'm from. This is where I'm going to stay. This is where I'll be. And my family's future is here. My grandson's futures are here. So you can be assured, if I have the opportunity to go to Nashville, that's what I'm going to be talking about. How can we better who we are? How can we improve? How can we give our people a better chance of a life?
I can't think of anybody more qualified.
Well,
from East Cleveland to the military, Lynn Davis, you got it all.
Well, I've had great people in my life.
If you had my looks, you'd really have it.
I'd have it made. I mean, Lord of mercy, that's why I say it sometimes, but I get that same laugh. But I just think you've got to, you can't be afraid to do what's right, okay? And I'm not in this, I'm not running for this office for no prestige, no nothing else. I'm retired, don't need, there's nothing up there that I need. But I think we need, here in Cleveland, Bradley County, I believe we need people up there that's willing to stand in the gap and defend who we are. We say we're the city of spirit. I want to make sure that they know we're the city of spirit. They'll know they've got a man up there that's going to speak exactly what we believe and how we live.
They'll know. What district are you running in?
What's the 24th district.
24th district.
It's the city of Cleveland.
And so it was Mark Hall.
It was Mark Hall, yes, sir. The city of Cleveland, a part of Prospect, part of McDonald, and just a small part of Waterville. Each representative serves 72,000 voters, okay, or population, not necessarily voters, but you're going to have at least 72,000 people in your district. So that makes up 72,000 for me. Now, our friend Dan Howe, he's got the rest of Bradley County. He's got Polk County, and he's got McMinn County.
That makes 72,000.
He gets his 72,000 that way. So I'm very fortunate that I will be serving the city of Cleveland, Tennessee, and part of Bradley County. I won't be serving anybody else. My focus will be on what's good for us, and how do we move Cleveland forward for the next 2, 4, 6 years, and how do we make a difference in our kids and our families, our grandparents. How do we make a difference in their lives for the next years to come? That's my goal. That's how I see it. That's what I want to do. I don't have any other motive of anything but that. And sometimes it's just like being on the board. And I'm gonna give you an example. Sometimes on the board you have to be the middleman. Okay, you have to. Sometimes it's hard to communicate. We've got to come together. Sometimes it's very difficult because it just gets all tangled up. And I think as a board member, I was one of those people to help guide that coming together to make sure that it makes sense, and that we go forward instead of going backwards. Well, I think of the same thing in Nashville. I think you've got to have people up there that see that we have to come together if we're going to ever get anywhere. And I'm not going to. I don't sell myself. I don't give up what I believe. I'm a Republican, a conservative with common sense, and that's what I go up there with. And when I come home, that's what I'll come home with. I'm not giving it away. I'm going to share it with people, and I'm going to make sure they know who we are in Cleveland and Bradley County, that what we need, and how we need to move forward. And do I have all the answers? No. But also, you hope your representative will be that guy that can, for instance, let's say, for instance, we have a problem with someone's Social Security. Well, so who do you call? You've called everybody you know, everybody in the line, and nobody else to help you. Well, you call your representative, and he or she makes one phone call, and guess what? It's a miracle. Well, same thing in the school system. Sometimes I picked up the phone and says, hey, we got a problem. This, and this has taken place, and it got fixed because I was the middle guy as a board member. I think the same
sort of a liaison.
The liaison that brought two entities together that made sense. We talk about in your past, how much money have you saved? I'll give you. Here's an example of bringing an entity together here in Cleveland, Bradley County, and saving taxpayers $1 million. For instance, when we built Waterville, we built Waterville, then they decided to expand the highway all the way down. So, but when they expand the highway, though, we had a sewer line going up through there. Now, it was going to cost $1 million for us to move that sewer line out to the side of the new road, okay? We were going to have to pay for that. Well, we met with Tom Wheeler and said, Tom, take over our line, and if they take over the line, the state will pay for it. Mm-hmm. So we were smart enough to sit down with Tom, and Tom was a gracious man. He was a great leader.
He really was.
He really was a great guy. And he sat down with Bob Taylor and I, okay?
I remember Bob.
And I was the chairman at that time. We sat down with him, and they agreed to take that line over so that the state would pay for it to be moved. See, if Cleveland Utilities owned it, they paid to move it. Because the school system owned it, they would not. Now, that's bringing people together for the right reasons, to make sure that our taxpayers weren't penalized, or our school system wasn't penalized because we had a sewer line, because we needed it, because the sewer line was hooked up to Waterville and also Lake Forest. So it was critical that that line we didn't lose that line, because we'd close schools if we did.
Right.
So it was but that's what you do. In the political arena, you have to be able to work with everybody and try to come up with a solution that makes sense, that didn't hurt anybody. That helped everybody.
Back to your logistics training.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Moving trucks, and how do we get that here?
That's exactly right. You've got to be able to be open-minded, not totally open-minded, because then you get trash thrown into it. Yeah. But I'm open-minded that I want us to work together. It's not about me. By far, it's not about me. It never has been. But
you want the 24th district to be represented.
I want them to be represented well. And why do I believe I can represent them well? Because I have the ability, I have the desire, and I have no other motive but to do what's right for Bradley County. I will never embarrass Bradley County or Cleveland City. I will never do anything that they would not be proud of in Nashville, Tennessee, I promise you. Because that's who I am. My integrity means more than anything that they can ever do in Nashville, Tennessee to me.
That's where the line's drawn.
That's where the line's drawn. I'm just telling you, I have a great family, and I wouldn't embarrass them for nothing. Okay? I mean, they're dear to me. And I got 2 grandsons. That means the world to me, to make sure that they have something here someday. And they can be here and raise their family. And that's my only motivation. But we got lots of families like that. It's not just for my family. I told you in the very beginning, I went on the school board I thought I was going to be able to help my daughter. My daughter didn't need help because she had good parents. And she was going to be okay no matter what. And she's been very successful. She's a very successful young lady. So she didn't need me on the board. It was those people that may not have had that experience with parents and with other people. I want to be that guy that pulls us together to make us better, not to hurt us. I am honest as the day is long. I have no reason to ever lie to you or anybody else in our district, and I won't. If I do something, you can be assured I've got a reason for doing it. But I'm not going to do anything to hurt anybody. I don't like that. Never have liked that. I'm for helping people and making a difference in life for you and everybody else. That's who I'll be in Nashville. If I have the opportunity to go and the people want me to go there, that's what I'll be. And I'll be that voice that people say, everybody's got these logos that they like to say, oh gosh, I'll be your voice. Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to do what's right. I don't know what voice it'll be, but it's going to be what's right for Cleveland and Bradley County. You're
going to be a Steve Lawson type guy.
Well, I'm going to be the guy that stands in the gap for us to make sure that we are, I've talked to Steve about he's got some issues over at the jail that the state needs to step in and try to help some things. I've already talked to him about that, and we need to work on that. I've talked to realtors in town. They've got some issues on rental property that we need to deal with. I mean, it goes back, Dee, to common sense. I mean, if there's anything I bring to the table, it's common sense. I mean, I'm not going to be, it just makes sense. Why aren't we doing things that make sense anymore? I don't know if we're trying to impress somebody, if we're trying to change the world, but common sense is what makes us who we are. And that's what will direct us in the future, what path we need to go. It's not because I'm the smartest one. I'll never sit here and tell you I'm the smartest man running today, because I don't know, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to working people, when it comes to the common folks of Cleveland, Bradley County, I'm on your side. And that's what I'm going to be serving. I'm going to make sure that we have a chance Our kids have a chance. Our families, our elderly has a chance to survive here in Cleveland, Bradley County. That's what my goal is, and I'm going to work toward that every single day. You know, I told you earlier that it was a part-time job in Nashville. Well, let me just tell you, on the school board it's a part-time job too. Mm-hmm. But if you'll ask people, they'll tell you it was full-time for me because I was dedicated to taking care of our students and our faculty and our parents. My life revolved around that. And I put, and I don't know if you know what we got paid. We got paid $200 a month. Now, someone said the other day, well, in their ad, they said, well, he didn't say Mr. Weathers, obviously, but he said, I'm not a career politician. Okay, well, let me tell you something.
That's not what you are.
That's not what I am. Now, I understand. I understand politics, but let me tell you what people are looking for. They're looking for somebody to go to Nashville can go to work tomorrow and make a difference. And I believe I'm that guy that goes to Nashville and I can start making a difference tomorrow if they send me, because I have relationships up there already. The Speaker of the House, the Leader of the House, a Republican. I've talked with the Chairman of the Education Committee. Already guaranteed if Cleveland elects me to go, I'm going to be on the Education Committee. Already been told that. That's not a maybe, that's it. They want people on there that know what they're doing. And they believe I do have that. I have the experience, the ability to bring something to the table that can make a difference in our future in Tennessee.
All I can say is, if Lloyd Rogers likes you, I love you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.